week, Hopkins County Sheriff Bill Dirks reported that crime in the county was up just a bit as compared to 1990. Well, Sulphur Springs Chief of Police Donnie Lewis says that crime stayed about the same in 1990.
Compared to 1990, CIS overall was about average for the year. We were, what I've been doing is listening to the increases in the larger cities, and we pretty much stayed the same type of increases on your major crimes as the larger cities did. Down on some, up on most, on your larger type things. So I think we kind of held our own considering the year that we had. I noticed on homicides, we had 3 homicides in 1991 compared to no homicides in 1990.
And they all came early in the year.
Yeah, they did. You know, two of the shootings involved juveniles or younger people, and the one on the Stewart boy out by the VFW, and they all came early in the year. And one of those investigations is still ongoing on the Stewart murder. So 2 of them cleared up, and 1 of them we still have ongoing. On sexual assaults in 1990, we had 8, to where we had 8 sexual assaults in 1991, so that stayed the same. Robberies, they doubled. We had 4 in 1990, we had 8 in 1991.
Why do you think they would double?
Economy, just the way things are now. Robberies are up everywhere at all departments. Aggravated assaults. Now, our aggravated assaults comes more under a domestic violence type deal now that the legislature had passed. We have to handle more of. We had 83 of those in 1990 and had 117 in 1991. So those are up some. Burglaries stayed pretty close to the same. We had 223 burglaries in 1990 compared to 229 burglaries in 1991. So that was up by 6.
And it's a little bit surprising it didn't go up by more than that because of the economy.
That's true. I thought we'd probably see our burglaries up a little bit more than they were, but that stayed pretty much the same when we get them compared like that. As the same as thefts. Thefts over 200. We had 232 in 1990, and we had 227 of these, which is down by 5 in 1991. So that's theft over 200 that the police department handled. The motor vehicle thefts, they were up by 5, and what this is attributed to is you notice we had a lot of new car thefts towards the end of the year on the car lots, and so that kicked that figure up. We had 57 in 1990 to where we had 62 automobiles stolen in Sulphur Springs in 1991.
Did the Operation Heat, that sticker program, did that have any kind of impact at all?
I can't see that it had much, and I'll tell you why. They've had that program now, I believe, twice here in Sulphur Springs where people could come in. I know one time they hit bad weather on it, so they're having to rework that program to get some of those stickers out. So we have not seen very few of those stickers around Sulphur Springs. Like I said, the motor vehicle thefts, you can just log that down to people coming in from Dallas. Dallas, if you've been listening to them, has had a terrible problem on auto thieves over there. Well, when those people leave Dallas and come down to Sulphur Springs, they steal cars. And we have some of those people over in the county jail now. But our accidents, now they were down. I was proud to see that, where they were down by 55. We worked 530 accidents inside the city limits in 1991 compared to 585 in 1990. So that was down some. Offenses that we actually took in, that we took on working a theft or a burglary or a criminal mischief or something like this, we had 2,245 of these that we worked in 1990 compared to 1,920 in 91. So you can see on the minor offenses, 920 of these, that was down by 325. So that's good. On arrest, legislature changing up a lot of these arrest rules and procedures on what we keep in the jail and what we arrest. We had 1,769 people arrested in 1990 here at the police department, compared to 1,474 in 1991. So that was down by 322 arrests on that. And another thing would be that also works back up to where you notice we're down by 322 on arrests, but we're also down by 325 on offenses, to where we'd go out, work an offense, and arrest somebody. So that pretty well evens out. The stolen property, in 1990 we had $692,000 worth of stolen property inside Sulphur Springs. I noticed in 1991 our closeout figures was $1,120,000. That's about double from what it was. But now you have to add on all these cars that we had stolen that were brand new, that were $25,000 and $30,000 cars went into this. So that increased that considerably on that. Recovered property, the police department in 1990 recovered $296,000 worth of property in the city limits that were stolen. In 1991 we recovered $624,000 worth of property. So that's double on the amount of property that we recovered. So that kind of balances out there. That shows it's pretty much staying the same there, Cecil. On county court cases that we filed in 1991, we filed 487 cases over at John Perry's office at the county attorney's office. We also filed, in 1991, we filed 204 DWI cases. People are paying more attention now to the DWI laws since they're more stringent, and we've talked about that in the past. But we actually handled 204 DWIs through here. District court cases, we handled many more cases than this, but where somebody might have 15 cases against them for forgeries, we'd file 1 or 2 cases of that, and then they'd plead with the district court on that. But in district court, we actually filed 94 felony cases on people. Also during 1991 we got the 9/11 system installed, and that'll be kicking off here the first part of 1992. We started a firing range out here that will be the for all law enforcement agencies that the city is helping us with. That was without using city tax dollars on it, so we was proud of it. And we went into our second phase of our SecureNet radio systems on that. So, and we're trying to take it in phases where not to affect the budget that much. We stayed within our budget in 1990, 1991, so I was proud of that. We did not have to put on any additional manpower here at the police department during that time. I was proud of that. So overall, I think that we're really holding our own here in Sulphur Springs on that.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Okay. Gracie, I understand you need a little bit of help with the technical center.
Yes, we had registration last night, and our turnout wasn't as great as we would like for it to have been. So I would like to remind the citizens of Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County that our registration will be tonight from 5 until 8 at the cafeteria out at the high school.
Now tell us a little bit more about the technical center.
The Technical Center is a partnership that is formed through Parish Junior College in East Texas State, and we are trying to form a college-type atmosphere here in Sulphur Springs where people can obtain college credit through technical courses.
And the courses are offered where?
They are offered out at the high school in the classrooms.
And you have a wide variety of classes that people can take.
Yes, it ranges from computers to welding. And we have a history course and a psychology course that is offered through East Texas State.
Who is eligible for it?
Anyone that's 18 years or older, and you have to be a citizen of, have to show proof of residence, and that's about it. We are trying to touch the community that would like to go back and get college courses. All of these courses are transferable with college credit.
And once again, when does the semester begin and when does it end?
The semester begins January the 20th, which is next Monday, and will end May the 11th, and that is a full college semester.
What about tuition cost?
Tuition cost is just the normal state tuition fee. It starts at $114 for a 3-hour course, and it goes from there. You have to allow for lab fees and books.
U.S. Congressman Jim Chapman of Sulphur Springs was making an airport tour of his first congressional district today, and his first stop was Sulphur Springs. Chapman outlined 1992 and what he hopes the Congress can do over the year, and he also took a look back at the accomplishments of 1991.
The purpose being to review 1991, in which I think legislatively for our neck of the woods we had a very good year in Congress. We accomplished every single goal we set out legislatively as far as our economic development agenda. Everything from our water resource development, the closing of the gates of Cooper Lake, keeping that project on track, fully funded. I anticipate that as we get to the closing, last 2 fiscal years, quite frankly, of appropriations that will be needed for our lake, that we're really over the hump at this point. We're down primarily to recreational development and some highway and infrastructure construction. I don't expect any problems in that. But from water resource development, Cooper Lake, of course, is the largest project that the Corps of Engineers had under construction for the last 5 years. In addition, we had the feasibility study for a new reservoir up in Red River County near Clarksville, a navigation project that would bring navigable Red River from Shreveport right into the heart of East Texas to Lone Star. That funding and that feasibility study continues. Our highway construction and highway development, of course, with the passage just before Christmas and the signing by the President of the Surface Transportation Act. We designated in that bill 2 highways out of only 20 in the country. 2 highways are in Texas, a new Interstate 49 from Shreveport to Kansas City that would come through Texarkana, where it would connect to existing US 59, which is upgraded in that bill to a national priority highway. That, along with, of course, continued maintenance and improvement of Interstate 20 and 30, sets a surface transportation grid work in East Texas that, along with our water resource development, I think positions us that we can be leading the pack when the economy turns around, which gets me to the 1992 challenge. We're ready. I think we've got the folks that are ready to go. We've got the infrastructure development in place. We have water resources in place. We've got some of the strongest, most profitable, and most responsible utilities in the whole country in our neck of the woods. But what we also have is now the 21st month of a recession. And it's time to get the country turned around and get it moving. That ought to be the agenda of the Congress and the President in 1992. That certainly is going to be the agenda of Jim Chapman. We need to take advantage of what I think is a unique moment in history. As we have seen in the last year, the Soviet Union disintegrate, as we have seen absolutely the crumbling of the other military superpower in this world, we are going to have an opportunity to take advantage of this moment in history, reinvest in this country, do the kinds of things that primarily and quite frankly because of our commitment to a huge national defense budget over the past decades we've not been able to do. That's fight and win that war on crime, for example. Put some resources where they can really do some good. We've passed great anti-crime legislation, but the Congress and the President have been unable to fund it. We have been good about talking about education and the environment, but we've not really put the programs in place to make it happen. But we've got to get the average working guy, the middle-class American family, reinstilled in confidence in this country. Middle-class tax relief is something we're hearing a lot about. We don't need to get in a tax-reducing war, but we do need to get the country going again. That means we need to return incentives for investment, savings. We need to do some things that will put some value back into real estate, make people in a position to want to and able to buy a home, do the kinds of things that will jumpstart this economy. That ought to be the challenge for 1992, and it's certainly what we ought to be working on. And then finally, I guess the issue of the 90s, and one that we've known about in our area for years, is health care. We have to, in this country, address the problems with out-of-sight, runaway health care cost, do something about it at the national level. Only Congress and the President are going to be able to address that issue in a comprehensive way on a national scope, and it's time to do that. All across America yesterday, my Democratic colleagues held health care town hall meetings. I joined them in that effort. In fact, I will be doing one in my district next week. That town hall meeting proposes 3 bold new approaches to health care in this country. and invites the input of all Americans, both as to what the problems they may have and what the solutions they would suggest. For years now, the administration has postponed any firm recommendations in any leadership role in this problem and this issue, and it's time now that we work together. Democrats and Republicans, Congress and the administration, House and the Senate, country folks and city folks, to do something about 38 million Americans that have no health insurance, 10 million more Americans that are underinsured, folks that worry every single day, not just about their job, but that some member of their family may get ill and not be able to afford health care coverage. I have been in the Congress now for 7 years. I was one of the organizers of the Rural Health Coalition in the Congress. I have addressed rural health care issues primarily since I've been there, and I want to be a part of the solutions to these problems in the next year.
Can you evaluate the President's trip to Japan and what it may or may not mean to the economy?
Well, the President's trip to Japan turned, of course, out to be a very political trip. And I'm proud that he's saying what he's saying. 7 years ago, I was elected to Congress on the issue of trade. I was talking fair trade 7 years ago. I had just witnessed the layoff of 4,000 steel workers in Lone Star. And we were talking then about what it means to demand that other countries allow us access to their markets. How unfair it was for the Japanese at that time, the Brazilians, the Canadians, to subsidize steel, dump it in this country in unfair competition with Lone Star. That has continued in other industries and other areas. Now in the automobile industry we see it. We've seen it in electronics. It angers me that my president would go to Japan and be scolded there, that the Japanese would have the unmitigated gall to scold my president about how Americans ought to work harder and be a little more austere and take a little less pay, while they sit there and close their markets to American products. And I was sitting in my evaluation of the President's trip, I wanted to reach back and just sock the Prime Minister and say, Mr. Prime Minister, it's fine for you to sit here and talk about you think you make better cars, but explain to me why your people can't eat Texas steak and why Rio Grande Valley citrus is not allowed into Japan, and why the rice growers in Texas and Louisiana can't get into your markets. Because I tell you, there are some things we do better than anybody else in the world. And agriculture is just one example. We can't sell our ag products in Japan. Why not? Because they raise these unfair trade barriers against us, and that's just one example. They do it all across their economy. And it's wrong. And the President of the United States ought to clamp down and do something about it, not just in Japan, but in our markets all around the world. I mean, we invite anybody to come here and sell to the American consumer. That's fine. That's what free trade ought to be about, but it ought to be fair. I've been preaching it for 7 years. I'm glad that the President of the United States has finally recognized it. It took 75,000 auto workers to be laid off before it got his attention. Plants closing all across this country before he noticed that we're in a recession. I don't want to talk about presidential politics, but we've had 12 years of this foolishness. And it's time that the President of the United States take a leadership role and do something about this, and Japan's the place to start. We ought to blast those markets open, and if we can't get those markets open, we ought to park those Hondas on the dock at Houston, Texas, and let them sit there until we can deal and trade in Japan. I don't have any strong feelings about that.
Sound like it. Chapman also said that in 1992, the government should look at spending less on the military and more on the economy. He left Sulphur Springs, headed to Little Rock, Arkansas, where he would speak with the governor of Arkansas concerning a new interstate that would stretch from Louisiana all the way to Kansas. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
I guess we focused on it that much in this part of the district, but there is no north-south artery in this country.
One thing is becoming very obvious in the District 15 4A girls basketball race. The Sulphur Springs Lady Wildcats are to be taken seriously. Friday night, the Lady Cats opened the district race with a win at Texas High. And then last night, highly regarded Mount Pleasant came to town. But Sulphur Springs dominated the Lady Tigers, especially in the second half, before winning going away.
We won 60-40. It was a close game at the half. We were ahead 27 at the half, and that was really what I expected. I expected it to be a close game. And then in the second half, it just seemed like Mount Pleasant didn't have a whole lot of spark, at all. And we went out. We were pretty successful in the first part of the third quarter, and they didn't. didn't really respond in the way I thought they would. And to our credit, we kept putting the pressure on, and we outscored them 19-2 in the third quarter. And we go in the fourth quarter with a 20-point lead, and it's pretty much over. All we had to do was just kind of maintain. They got down within 14, but that was as close as they could get, and that was with like about a minute and a half left. And then they fouled us. We made our free throws pretty well, and we ended up winning by 20.
Who played well for you?
Well, it was another one of those games where the whole team did a good job. It's kind of hard to spell anybody in particular, but Kay Harper had another good game. She's playing all-district caliber basketball for sure. She scored 14 points and had 7 or 8 rebounds, had 4 or 5 steals, and she didn't really shoot the ball very well. She couldn't make anything on the outside, but she still got 14 points. Amy Anderson played a lot inside because Sheila Sims' knees bothering her real bad last night. She didn't play much. Amy had 14 points. Brandy Sachs had 7 or 8 points, 7 or 8 rebounds, just another kind of game like she always has. And then Kelly Bell had a good job handling the ball for us and had 8 assists, scored 6 points. We scored 60 points on a night when I was thinking our shooting was not very good, and it really wasn't all that great, but yet we were able to go inside enough and match up with them inside pretty good, and still able to score 60.
Let's talk a little bit more about that Sheila Sims knee injury. Is that very serious, or?
Well, I don't know. She doesn't talk to me much about it. She likes to be tough and go out and play. She talks to Coach Bryce a little bit more than she talks to me, but last night she asked to come out once, and I took her out. And then in the third quarter, we got out in front of them, and I took her out, and I told her, I said, if it doesn't get close, you're not going back. And we just kept getting farther and farther ahead. I looked down at her and said, just take the rest of the night off. And it's been kind of bothering her for about 3 weeks. And last night was the one team that we could play without her successfully. And we got to have her against Paris and North Lamar.
Now, a 20-point win, do you think that sends a little bit of a message to the rest of the district over Mount Pleasant winning by 20?
I don't know if it does or not. The message I got out of it was Mount Pleasant just didn't play very hard in the second half. I was surprised in the way that they played in the second half. I thought they would really give us a fight, and you know, maybe we played better than I thought we did. I mean, we played good. I mean, we played good. We just didn't really click like we have at times, but maybe we're a little bit better than I thought. Who knows?
And you thought you were going to be real good.
I thought we'd be pretty good, yeah. So maybe we'll find out Friday for sure. 2-2-0 teams. We're the only 2 left. North Lamar beat Paris last night, so.
That showdown with North Lamar will be Friday night. Now also at North Lamar, the Sulphur Springs Wildcats will be in action. Sulphur Springs with a tough, hard-fought game last night against Quitman. Wildcats won it. That ends the non-conference schedule.
Well, it was a tough ball game, hard-fought, intense all the way, and of course, you know, going to Quitman and their a lower classification, and they looked at this as an opportunity to really put a feather in their cap, and they played very hard and very well, and we were fortunate to come out with a win.
Tell me about some individual performances.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is Terry Mosley. Had a good scoring night with 27 points. I haven't compiled the rebounding and assist and so forth stats as of this time, but he had a good scoring night with 27 points, and I know he got a lot of rebounds also, but the one factor I think that was important that nobody would notice except we coaches and the players, and it needs to be brought out. There was one of their players that had a real good first half, number 34. I can't remember what his name was, but he had 13 points at halftime, and he was really hurting us, and you know, if we didn't do a job on him, then it could really get out of hand. And we put Junior Johnson on him to defend him, and he did not score the second half. So I think things like that are very instrumental in our success. And with Junior doing such a good job, that gave us a little breathing room on offense.
Now this is, I believe, 5 wins in a row heading into district, and the streak couldn't have come at a better time, could it?
Well, we're happy to kind of get on a roll here, and it's the most important time of the year. We have won 5 in a row, and we're going into district, and I think hopefully that'll give us a good surge and a positive outlook toward district, because district is really going to be a dogfight.
Now you have North Lamar Friday night. Give us a little scouting report on the Panthers.
Well, I picked North Lamar personally to challenge for the district championship. They have 4 returning starters. Their record is not real good right now because they've played the likes of Plano East and McKinney and Allen and some good people over back that way toward Dallas. I don't think they even have a winning record, but I did go see them personally beat Allen, who is ranked in the Dallas area, and I just think that they're going to be a factor. Could be a playoff team in our district, and they have 4 returning starters, and all of their starters are between 6'2" and 6'4", which presents an immediate problem for us. But I think that they'll be a team to contend with.
Okay. This Wildcat team and last year's team bear striking resemblances to each other. Going into last year, the Cats were on a hot streak, and they went on to win the district. Cecil Savage, 18 News. The topic of TOS scores came up last night at the Sulphur Springs School Board meeting. The TOS exit level test results are in, and Sulphur Springs students did very well in every category except math, and only juniors, and it's something that has the district a little concerned.
Our results are above the state results in all areas except 11th grade math results. And I've given on the exhibit last year's results and this year's results. One thing I might point out is not only do you find out if you passed or failed, but students also receive a scale score grade. On the basis of 2,000 points, a student would have to score 1,400 to receive a passing grade. And our scale scores from last year to this year stayed basically the same. In some areas they were up a few points, in some areas they were down a few points. So the average scores of our students over the 2 years is basically the same. The difference in the scores from 90 to 91 had to do with the percentage of students showing mastery, and that was affected by the increased requirement to from 60 to 70% mastery. Now, if you would like to look through each summary report, have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. The first page of the summary report is all 3rd grade students. And then following this sheet is a summary report for each campus. So we have all 3rd grade students in the district, and then a summary report by campus, beginning with Austin School, then Bowie, and so forth. And then when you finish with the 3rd grade, well, then we have a report for our 5th grade campus, 7th, 9th, and 11th.
It's important to remember that a student must pass an exit level test before they graduate high school. Cecil Savage, 18 News.
Locally, and I'm hearing maybe
15-degree overnight low recorded at the KSST studios, and more is in store. Winter has finally arrived, and with that, extra heat will be used in homes, but you need to be careful, especially if you're using space heaters. Sulphur Springs Fire Marshal has a few words of advice.
A space heater is a wonderful thing, but it's so easy to misuse it. And I guess that's what we're talking about, is misusing of space heater. They should be clear from any combustible by at least a minimum of 3 feet. And I noticed on the news last night, I believe, that they had a fatality that involved a space heater and some clothing. And as people get older, they tend to stay a little cooler, and they'll buy them a space heater to supplement their heat. And they'll get around them with their night clothes on, and first thing you know, they've got a problem because they're just not used to cuddling up to a space heater.
Also, you can run into problems because those things can leak fairly easily.
Okay, you're talking about kerosene heaters, yes. Some cities have actually outlawed kerosene heaters. When the kerosene heaters came in, they were great. Everybody liked them, but they found a flaw in them. And the flaw is that they have a tendency to flare, and they don't know why. They don't know if it's the design of the kerosene heater or just exactly what happens. But a kerosene heater is very dangerous. We've had one incident here in the city where they were keeping their business warm with a kerosene heater, and it flared one night and set some shelving and stuff on fire. So a kerosene heater is, in my opinion, it's almost borders on being dangerous. And nobody really knows why they do that. And of course, a kerosene heater affects you in another way. It burns up oxygen, and if you don't have a fresh air source into the room you're in with that kerosene heater, you can overcome a carbon monoxide. And of course, you don't really know that carbon monoxide is getting you until you start getting dizzy and sleepy. And the way to find out if that is the problem is step out in the fresh air. And if it is the problem, then you need to correct it, because if you don't, you're in for some trouble.
Can you correct it by, and this may sound silly with it being cold outside, but leaving a window cracked?
Sure. That's, of course, you know, in your older houses where you've got wood walls and got a lot of windows, ventilation kind of takes care of itself. But you should always make sure that you do have some fresh air coming into the room, and the best way to do it is raising the window. The later built homes that we have, like our sheetrock walls, maybe got one window to a room and a door out of it, you could very easily be overcome and not even be aware of it, because the room is so tight and it doesn't let the air circulate freely.
Do you have any other tips, for example, having your space heater or kerosene heaters checked by qualified people to make sure they're in top working condition?
Well, first of all electric space heaters have one thing on them that you should check, and that is a tilt device. They all come with tilt devices. Now, I don't know that, now there's probably somebody out there that's got one that don't have a tilt device on it, but you can actually visually inspect an electric space heater and just turn it on and get a hold of the handle and lean it over, and if it shuts itself off, that's about the only inspection that you can make on it. On a kerosene heater, I don't know that you can do any more than read the instructions, because most people are not proficient in checking kerosene heaters. I don't think I would be. I don't really understand the new concept of kerosene heaters. As far as a clayback heater, visually looking at the flame is going to tell you as much as anything. If you've got a yellow flame or a whitish yellow flame, then that shows that you don't have a proper mixture of air and gas. If you got a little crisp, bright, bluish, real deep bluish flame, then it pretty well indicates to you that it's working okay.
And at this, while you're checking everything, what about smoke detectors? Smoke
detectors. I'm sure that the Dallas Fire Department, and I've seen some of their advertisements on TV, and they talk about the people they lose, and they pretty well come back and they'll say they didn't have a working smoke detector in the room. A lot of people have smoke detectors. They don't maintain them. That's the problem. I believe the national average is 75% of the people in the U.S. have smoke detectors, but less than 50% of them operate, simply because people won't maintain them. Smoke detector, I've noticed on TV and on some advertisements that you can get 2 for $10 now. They've gotten so cheap, and that's the best money that I believe can be spent toward protecting someone's life. A smoke detector will get you out of that house before the temperature and atmosphere in there changes so that you can't get out. They work, they're cheap, and I think everybody should have a smoke detector. And I would suggest if people travel, they carry a smoke detector in their suitcase, because there's been instances where people's lives were saved because they had a smoke detector in their suitcase. And that's a little hard to believe, but it has happened.
And don't think the cold weather will be going away anytime soon. The forecast for Saturday calls for freezing rain and snow with temperatures in the 20s for daytime highs. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
That's where a smoke detector does its best job, is on these.
At the Sulphur Springs Public Library, an art exhibit is currently on display. 2 local artists are featured. David Davis of Sulphur Springs, who is a cartoonist for the Winsboro News, and Jacqueline McElroy, who's an art instructor at Como-Picton High School. Jackie has a collection of about a dozen original works on display.
Kind of demonstrates how we put on different faces for different occasions and for different people. It's a pretense that we're under all the time, and I don't think we're even aware of it, that we act differently when we're in different places and with different people. This particular work is an etching. I included a lot of different types and styles of work in order maybe please a broader range of viewer. This one is kind of comical. It deals with a woman looking out the window waiting for her husband to come in. She's got a cleaver in her hand, and so there's an element of humor in that one. This one over here is called Tired. At the time that I did this, I was working on 2 classes at ET, teaching full-time, and also working on a play with community players. So this is a self-portrait. This is me, very tired. And this is done in graphite. This smaller one is called Mask. Again, it's kind of a throwback to this other pretense where sometimes the face that you see that you think is the mask is not really the mask, but the one that you thought was real proves to be that instead. And here you see part of the face peeling away. This is done in graphite as well. This is another etching. It's called The Rescue Failed. And it's just an attempt, or showing someone attempting to help somebody, but rather than helping pull them out of their situation, you get pulled down into it too, and most of us can relate to that. This is called Conflicts, and it's done in oil pastels, which is a medium that I particularly like because of the versatility of it and the intensity of the colors. If I want to work with color, that's usually what I do, is get oil pastels. They're also inexpensive and I can afford them. This is also a self-portrait dealing with situations that we're faced with all the time, not knowing which way to turn, not knowing whose advice to take. You know, it's the hot and cold of our life, dealing with emotions again. Let's see, I think we go over here. This work is meant to be viewed as a trilogy. There are 3 portraits together. Again, they're done in oil pastels. The top one deals with the kind of the inner sultry self that we all think we are. The seductive person, the warmth, this inner glow that we have. The next one down here deals with the Madonna image. You know, we are all not the Madonna, video Madonna, but the Madonna virgin type thing where we are holier than thou and very perfect. And the third one is kind of the comical aspect. That's probably what most people see, the real self. Okay, this one now? Okay. This is an acrylic painting that's called Creation or Forming of the Earth, and it's meant to be a double image showing not only a landscape, but God's hands as He forms this landscape. Salvador Dali did a lot of double imagery in his work, and I kind of adopted his idea and did a painting of God forming the earth. This is like I said, there are a lot of different mediums and techniques. This is a watercolor. This was also a demonstration that I did for a class at school. And actually, we were working on backgrounds and how to try to create different types of backgrounds for their work. And I just kind of pulled the image from the background with what was left. I pulled out the image. It's called Vague. I can't really tell a whole lot about it other than that there's a face in there. This little etching down here is called Hanging Loose. And I started a playground series at one time. I did a girl playing hopscotch and a croquet game, and this particular one, it was meant to be shadows that are cast off the playground. And the more I worked on them, the more sinister the aspect became, and they have kind of a frightening image or connotation, or they evoke an emotion that's rather frightening to the viewer. And I don't think I intended that to begin with. It just more or less evolved as the series went along. This other etching over here is called A Coming Out, and that was one of the last ones that I did. Unfortunately, I don't have access to equipment now to do many etchings. But this was during a time in my life when I was at a point where I had to do some coming out. I had to change my situation and so forth. And not only is this crouched figure ready to leap forward, but also there is this play with the darkness and into the lighter part of the print that I think helps to accentuate the idea in it. Okay, this painting is the last one in the exhibit, and it's also an acrylic on canvas. And it's done from a small group of trees that I saw over in Lake Tyler. I did a sketch of it, then went back and did the painting. And the interesting part about the painting is I never used a brush on it. I used pieces of paper and pieces of mat board to put the paint on with, and once again it started taking on a sinister aspect. I think maybe that during that particular time in my life everything seemed pretty sinister. Fortunately, things are looking up now.
The exhibit is located in what was the genealogy room at the library. It's open between 8 and 5 weekdays until noon on Saturday through the entire month of January. And you may view the exhibit free of charge. Enola Gay for 18 Country News.
One of the big social events of the year in Sulphur Springs is the Miss Sulphur Springs Pageant. It's about a month away. Plans are already being made, and plans are being developed for the Little Miss pageants. Cynthia Johnson and Sharice Emerson, the 18 Country Studios, to discuss the Little Miss pageant. Cynthia, tell me about the pageant and when it is and who can participate.
Okay, this year it's going to be on Saturday, February the 22nd, and all of the judging and everything will be held that one day. And it's for girls 3 through 16 and boys 3 through 9. So we have, different age groups within that age frame.
Now this is the Little Miss, Teen Miss. Give those classifications.
Okay, we call it Little Miss, but our age categories are Tiny Miss, which is ages 3 to 5, and Little Miss 6 to 8, Young Miss 10 through 11, Junior Miss 12 and 13, and Teen Beauty 14 through 16.
We bring Sharice in here very quickly. This is a major project to put on, isn't it? It takes a lot of organization. I would imagine you begin almost when the previous year's contest is ended.
Yes, you do. It's a lot more work than people realize.
Tell me some of the things that you have to do to put on this type of pageant.
Well, for one thing, you have to, once you crown the winners from this year, it's constantly being in contact with them throughout the year to make sure they participate in parades and ribbon cuttings and just anything that would get them exposure. And then it just goes through the summer, and by the time fall hits, we're in full swing trying to get trophies ordered and crowns and
also I think the kids get a lot out of it, don't they? It's a learning experience.
Hopefully. We try to make it such that they have a good time, and whether they win or lose, that next year when it rolls around, they want to participate again. We feel like that they can all learn something, poise and confidence, and talking with judges, and, having a good time.
Once again, let's go over when it will be.
Okay, Saturday, February the 22nd. The judging will all take place at Wesley United Methodist Church. They've been gracious enough to work with us on that. And then that evening, all of the contestants will be presented and all of the winners will be crowned at the Civic Center just prior to the Miss Sulphur Springs pageant.
Do you have your judges? Do you know who they will be?
Yes. We don't give names out, but they are all out of town, and they have no knowledge of any of the children. They're all done by numbers only, and we try to make it as fair as we can, and that's the best way we can do it.
How difficult is their job?
Well, I think they have probably a sort of a hard time, particularly in certain categories, but they have a really good time. We have 2 ladies and 1 man that's coming, and they really enjoy visiting with the kids, and it's real low-key, but it's a lot of fun. They enjoy it.
Sharice, tell me about entry fees, if there's an amount to get involved in this, and also where you can pick up the applications.
This year the applications are at Strawberry Fields and Juvenile, and those are both children's. And I believe you were going to put some at the academy, is that right?
We had talked about
the Dance Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And the entry fee, I believe, is $20 per child, unless you have 2 in the family that want to enter, and it's $15.
How do people get more information about it?
They can call me, Cynthia Johnson, at 885-5135, and I'll be glad to mail them an application or meet with them or whatever.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
But they have a group now.
Okay. First on the ballot is Charles Woods.
The Hopkins County Democratic Party drew names for places on the March 10th primary ballot this morning. Hopkins County, a predominantly Democratic county, led by Lowell Cable, who says that he expects the Democratic Party to be strong once again in this election year of 1992.
George W. Benz. Anybody know George W. Benz? Yeah, I do. Yeah, sure do. In fact, I don't, of course, I always try to throw a little politics in it. No one has any question about my politics, but yeah, I think the national picture has a lot to do with it. A lot of people that have floated back and forth across the line, I think they're coming home to the Democratic Party, and I certainly hope so, and they're certainly welcome.
As far as the local races are concerned, and those in which more than one candidate is running, this is how it will appear on the March primary ballot. For 62nd Judicial District Judge, Jim N. Thompson and George Preston. For County Attorney, Robert Newsom and John F. Perry. For Sheriff, Billy G. Dirks and Jones Roberts. County Commissioner Precinct 1, Elton Stewart, William A. Spark, Bill Dugan, and Willie Sells. County Commissioner Precinct 3, Delbert L. Tully and Don Patterson. Constable Precinct 1, Roger Maynard, Ken Wisdom, and Tina Clark Otts. Constable Precinct 2, J.L. Jim Brigman, Pat Potts, Jerry R. Waller, and Wayne Ray.
There was a long ballot. I guess it wouldn't be advantageous to be buried in the middle of the ballot with two strong contenders on each end of it, but top or bottom. But I don't. It just depends on the candidate and the one that gets out there and sees the folks and convinces them that they can do the best job.
In this election year, he says it's time for the Democratic Party to rally together.
I'm real anxious to meet the Senate, Democratic Senate candidate, Mr. Gamble, Steve Gamble from over at Longview. And we want to give him all the help we can give him because it's so important, like on appointments and this sort of thing, that that doesn't mean that all Republicans are bad folks, but they're obligated to their party people and that sort of thing. And we just, we got a Democratic governor now, have we ever? And it just works a lot smoother to have, and we're going to try real hard to have a Democratic senator in this district.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question. How much will you be involved and the Democratic Party be involved in pushing your candidates, particularly after the primaries?
You mean on the local level?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, if they have Republican opponents, you better believe we'll be involved. Well, I just, you know, should stay out of it until the primary, stay out of local politics until primary is over, and then you bet whomever it is, we'll certainly be there in force, and I hope everybody else feels the same way.
You think Hopkins County is going to remain primarily Democratic?
Yes, I think it. I think we didn't really dodge a bullet. We've always been Democratic, and sure, there's a lot of so-called conservative people, but that doesn't mean that they won't make an investment in the future, in people and kids in kindergarten and investing in people where they can be on their own. So that's not liberal at all to me. In fact, if anything, it's liberal and crazy not to make that investment in the future for people that'll stand on their own 2 feet. And you know, another thing that kind of struck me by the Reagan administration estimate, 20% of the people on welfare should not be on it. Okay, now then, half of the rest of them are kids. And then you got people that simply can't make it on their own. So the thing to do is to worry a lot and have a real hard line on those 20% of people who are riding the welfare system that should be working and are able-bodied, and take care of the little old ladies or the men, and for goodness sake, the kids. And when I put that to the hardest-nosed Republican, take kids off welfare, you want to take them? Oh, no. Well, let's work on that 20%, and let's don't worry too much about who's on welfare and who's not after we get some of the presidential people are coming out now on a work fair, which I'm very much for.
It appears the 1992 political race is already heating up. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Where's your May Sparks?
Right here, 6 numbers. I think you got
Paul Glover is getting used to his new job as the superintendent of the Sulphur Springs School District. He took over that post this month from retiring superintendent Danny Durham. Glover faces many challenges as superintendent, particularly with state funding.
Very pleased with the way things have gone, especially pleased with the response from our staff, our teachers, and principals, administrators, and so forth, and their support for me, and I really appreciate that. I've been around to visit almost every campus in the district and have been at their faculty meetings and have talked with the teachers and aides and the support people, and their response has been very good, and I appreciate it. And I've got a couple more campuses to go, which I'll probably visit next week, but so far things have gone real well.
Do you think the smooth transition has been because you've been here a while and people know you and have worked with you in the past?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with it. I think, you know, I'm familiar with the system. I'm familiar with the things that are going on, the things we're trying to accomplish. And, of course, while Mr. Durham was here, he got a lot of things done and got things going in the right direction, and very appreciative of his work. And so, you know, I plan on carrying that forward, and there are a lot of new things that we're looking at and some things we'd like to try.
I want to talk about those here in a moment, but how did Danny Durham leave the school district? What kind of shape was it in when you took over?
It was terrible shape, absolutely.
Shambles.
Shambles. Now, as you well know, Danny did an excellent job. Danny's an excellent administrator, and we really hate to see him go. I understand his reasons for leaving, and I know that this job that he's taking at the service center was pending and had to be filled in January, and they wanted him very badly, and their gain is our loss. But Danny left the district in very good shape in all aspects, curriculum and instruction, finance, and so forth. And you know, we hope to continue right along with that.
Now, you take over a school district when schools in Texas are kind of a hot topic. What about school finance? What do you see on the horizon in that topic, and how will it affect Sulphur Springs?
Well, we expect a ruling from the Supreme Court on school funding. In fact, it may come out today, but in the very near future. And if they make this school funding process that we're in now, that was passed by the legislature last summer, illegal, unconstitutional, then we've all got big problems. They could completely shut off all funding locally and from the state level too, and which will mean the closing of a lot of schools in the state. We hope that we are able to stay open as long as possible, and we anticipate doing that and plan to do that. But you don't ever know what the legislature might have to come back and do, and what the Supreme Court's ruling, how it's going to affect us. They could remand the whole thing back to a lower court and say go ahead and continue on this year and get some changes made before next year. But until their ruling comes out, we're just sort of all in limbo right now.
Sulphur Springs is a little more fortunate than some other schools, isn't it? Because you have, I guess, prepared for this day.
We have. We've been preparing for this day probably for 2 years. When the legislature started into session and the original bill that they passed a couple of years ago was thrown out by the Supreme Court, then we started preparing ourselves financially to get ready for the day when schools may very well have to close. And hopefully we've got enough fund balance to operate the schools for 2 or 3 months. That's where we try to stay, where we can continue on through the year. But it could be that, you know, with the loss of state funds, which is about 47% of our money, and if they declare it unconstitutional and say that we have to not collect any more local taxes, it could be we have no choice but to close, but I really don't anticipate that. That would be chaos for the entire state.
That would be the extreme.
It would, the very extreme.
What are some of the other issues that you expect to face?
Well, you know, we're looking at a number of things coming down from the State Board of Education and the Commission of Education and TEA that we're very interested in. There are some changes coming along in curriculum that sort of gives more flexibility to the teachers in the classroom and each campus as to how they administer curriculum, how they do things. I've thought for a long time that the state has mandated too many things that the teacher has to do and restricted the teacher too much, put too many restrictions on how she teaches in her classroom or how he teaches in his classroom. And we've got some excellent teachers in this district and have had for a number of years. And I think in some cases we've really restricted them from doing as good a job as they can do because of guidelines and rules from the state. So I see that relaxing quite a bit. And I see more flexibility in the classroom, and I'm certainly very much in favor of that.
Is any of that flexibility something I've kind of heard through the wind, a 7-period day at the high school?
Well, that's one thing we're going to do next year, is we're going to a 7-period day at the high school. And the reason for that is, of course, is it allows us to offer students a greater variety of subjects they can take. For instance, a student now can take biology 2 or chemistry 2 every other year, or not the same time. These are advanced placement courses. If they take these, they might comp out or place out and not have to take that course in college. So we would like to be able to offer more advanced placement courses. We'd like to be able to offer more higher level thinking skills type programs. But at the high school, it allows a student to go ahead and take some other things that they couldn't normally take. To give you an example, a student on a 6-period day that wants to participate in extracurricular activities, whether it be band or drill team or athletics or whatever. That's 4 courses, one each year for a 4-year period, that they're pretty well restricted that they've got to take those, and that eliminates them taking some electives they might wish to take, whether it be in computer science, whether it be in advanced placement courses or advanced courses in math or science or whatever. So we would like to loosen that up a little bit and give students the opportunity to take more courses.
Which in turn would, I would think, improve morale at the high school and make it a little more fun to go to school.
Well, I think so. I think the main thing, the main focus of it is it's best for the students. And of course, that's what we're most interested in. What's best for the students is what we want to do. And if we can give the students a greater variety of education at the high school, give them more opportunities to prepare them, whether it be for college, whether it be for technical school, or whether it be to go out into the job labor force next year, well, that's what we want to do. This 7-period day will also expand our vocational programs. It will allow some of those students who have never been able to get into computer class, for instance, to do that, or to get in some kind of vocational training class to do that. So we expect not only students to be able to take more, but to be able to expand our curriculum at the high school.
It's not a knock on Danny Durham, but do you expect to be a visible superintendent? You won't invite parents in?
Oh, sure. Yeah, you know, that's one of Danny's strong points, is he was very visible in the community and in the schools. And I certainly am going to do that. I'll see each campus at least once a week and try to get around and just make people aware that I'm there, make the staff aware that I'm there if they need me, let them know that I'm interested. Of course, I've always been in favor of a school-community relationship being very strong. And I think those ties between the school and community or school and businesses must be there. And yes, I'll be out in the community, I'll be visiting, I'll be talking to service clubs and so forth, and doing everything I can to promote this school district, because we've got an excellent school district and we want to continue that and even improve on that.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Hopkins County Civic Center has turned the corner into 1992. Civic Center manager Rod Henderson gives us his monthly rundown of what's coming up.
Sunday we got a play day out in the arena, big indoor arena. We had a big cattle sale out there last week, and we've got that thing turned around ready for a play day Sunday. Monday is a rare holiday for us. I believe we'll finally get to, we haven't had a holiday off except for Christmas Day since the last, I can't remember when the last holiday we had off. So we'll have Monday off for a change. The 25th of February, Bill Schustick with community concerts will be in here, and also we'll have the district Rotary meeting will be here. on the 25th. On the 31st, we'll have the county and district clerks area meeting will be in here. They all get together and talk about how to do things better. February the 1st, another community concert with Neil Ramsey. The Neil Ramsey Duo will be in here on February the 1st. Also on February the 1st is Kiwanis Pancake Day.
Oh, now that's always a big event.
Just hold that up right there. And Kiwanis Pancake Day, Saturday, February the 1st. It'll be all day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's also the day of the community concerts Neil Ramsey Duo out here. Tickets on that are $3.50 for adults and $2.50 for children 12 and under. It's all you can eat. Just keep eating until you can't eat, and it's good. It's always good. I'm one of the cooks. I know.
That's one of the things that packs them in for you each year.
They line up wanting my pancakes in there. They don't want Hoyt Gideon's. He's over the next grill. They want mine. Hoyt does his medium rare. I get mine well done. Okay. Also on that weekend, the 1st and 2nd, something you might be interested in too, Cecil. The annual baseball seminar will be taking place out in the indoor arena. About 80 or 90 kids involved in that thing. And did you come to that last year?
Yes,
did you cover that last year?
Walt Mannon is in charge.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best programs going around for the young kids to get involved in that thing. So, and if parents want to get their kids involved in that, I suggest they call Walt Mannon. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I'm sure he's in the book. On the 4th day of February, Dobson Tractor Company will have their annual luncheon. On the 6th day, the 4-H record book workshop will take place out here. And on the 8th, something unusual. First time we've had anything like this, Dub Venable, a guy from Anadarko, Oklahoma, is holding an exotic animal sale out in the arena. This involves like ostriches, what's the plural for ostrich?
That was close enough.
Okay, ostriches or whatever it is, things you make boots out of, and all kinds of different animals. I think he's going to have llamas and giraffes and I don't know what all. But it's going to be a big exotic animal sale out in the arena. That takes place on February the 8th. The school has a big technology meeting on the 13th. I think this is where they have the computer systems all set up, and this is their second time to do that. It's very interesting. On the 14th, the school has the Hearts Festival Dance. The 15th and 16th, the Oil Belt Cutting Horse Association cranks up again. This will be their first weekend of cutting for the 92 year. They have 8 weekends a year, of course, out here. So that's the 15th and 16th of February. That's free, by the way. Folks can come out, watch the cutting horse events anytime during the day on Saturday and Sunday. Have an in-service day with the school on the 21st. Then on the 22nd, Miss Sulphur Springs pageant takes place in the auditorium. That's always a big, colorful, and well-attended event. And the 22nd, 23rd of February, this is something that we always look forward to and have. This will be our 4th annual Home Garden and Recreation Show. Big to-do weekend here in the Civic Center. It covers the entire exhibit hall out in the arena. We have all kinds of booths. We'll have about 50-odd booths.
And you're praying for good weather.
Well, yeah, we're praying for good weather, but we've had bad weather before and they still came. So we're looking forward to that, and we're already beginning to get our booths lined up on that. We generally have, like I said, over 50 booths in that thing. We had 6 of those booths already signed up before we ever mailed out our notices. Folks that just called us and said, hey, when is the Home and Garden Show? Put us down for a booth. So we're looking forward to another very successful year on the Home and Garden Show. It's becoming a tradition, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. On the 25th, the Sulphur Springs School District will have their spelling bee rehearsal. And then on the 29th of February, kind of round out the month of February, the Dial Study Club has their big annual to-do in here on the 29th. One other thing that I'll mention way on up in March, and we'll get to talk about that more later on, but we've got a big concert coming up on the 21st day of March with one of today's top young country entertainers, Mark Chestnut. So he'll be here. We'll have an opening act, and I'm not sure who that's going to be yet. I think I know who it is, but I'm not going to say, because then it might turn out the wrong way and some little old lady get mad at me out there. So I'm not going to do that.
Let's hope it doesn't come to that. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. They're hectic at the Hopkins County Chamber of Commerce. They're getting prepared for this Thursday night's annual chamber banquet. Gracie Weston with the Decorations Committee says it will be a night of stars.
Our theme this year is going to be Starry, Starry Night, and we are promoting stars. The stars of our community will be awarded that night. That's going to be the theme of the decorations, is a Starry, Starry Night. The GTE band from Dallas is going to be here, and they're going to play music that will coincide with our theme. We have a lot of street stars, balloons. We hope to make it a very pretty and gala night, a very special night for Hopkins County.
Notice you have a lot of the things still sitting around here. You're going to have time to get them ready by Thursday?
We're going to, the tables will be set up Wednesday afternoon after school, and then we're going to have a work day Thursday. We have a number of volunteers lined up, and we're going to get it into place Thursday.
Chamber Executive Director Harv Chapman says that the 4 awards that are always given out at the Chamber banquet will be done again this Thursday night.
Really are recognizing some stars, if you want to call them that, because we always do the 4 awards. We do the Agriculturist of the Year award, which by definition I can understand what that one is. The Beta Sigma Phi group does a Woman of the Year award, and that's presented by them. Then there is the Rural Beauty Spot for the year, and I've been talking to Judge Millsap as well as the 4 county commissioners. They're the ones who coordinated this during 1991. I believe they said there were 20 different homes or churches or locations, because they were picking locations in every precinct. So now they brought it down to 1 winner out of those 20 that were candidates.
Sounds like a tough decision.
Yes, and then one of the commissioners, I think it's Commissioner Hopkins, is presenting the award, so maybe that gives a clue as to which precinct that it's in. And then the final award is from Echo Publishing, and that's the Citizen of the Year award. And that's always a lot of anxiety, I guess, or anticipation is the best word for that award. We're expecting, I hope that we'll have a sellout. The good Lord willing, the weather will be nice.
How have your ticket sales gone?
420 sold as of right this minute, and 500 is what we're planning for. And most of those are tables. We still have some tables of 12. All the tables of 8 are sold out. But then there are several individuals. You know, you can buy 1 ticket, you can buy 2, whatever, and they'll be just what we call an unreserved general seating.
Do you have a cutoff date on the tickets?
Well, from the standpoint of the catering, and by the way, it will be a steak dinner, full course with good salad, and I understand they're doing cheesecake for dessert. Cheryl Gerke and her committee have really put together, I think, a good menu. We're going to have to let the caterer know probably by Wednesday morning, so it's going to get pretty quick.
Okay. Go over the ticket prices again.
Tickets are $15 each, and the entertainment is the GTE band, and Cheryl's committee, by the way, has confirmed that they are at the end of the entertainment portion of that music and singing. They're going to have an area where there'd be opportunities for dancing if the people want to. And I've heard this band play over in Dallas. They're very good and play danceable music.
The event will get underway at about 6:30 Thursday evening at the Sulphur Springs High School gym. Cecil Savage, 18 News. There are some events where you simply have to bring an appetite. That was the case Saturday afternoon when the Sulphur Springs Girl Scouts sponsored the first annual Cookie Munch-Off. Celebrities from around Sulphur Springs gathered to see who could devour those delicious Girl Scout cookies. And without further ado, let the munching begin.
Cookies that are inside the mouth, not a little bit picking out. That's cookies at the top. At the end of the minute, only the cookies that they could put inside their mouth.
Some of the so-called celebrities included principals and administrators from the Sulphur Springs School District.
They can eat with both hands. We provided some water for them to drink. So we'll have 1 minute. Contestants, are you ready?
It was already broke. I don't know how many is in there. 20. 20 minus 7.
12. 13. Yay, 13. Well, I guess you know the winner is coming. And applause here. 14 cookies. Augusta, very happy great. Gentlemen, thank you for participating.
Next were representatives from the various grocery stores. And finally, representatives of the local media. That's our own Chuck Davis on the far left.
Did you win? Even though you only gave him one cookie? I don't know. Mr. Manneman is like he's got practice there. He's sure eating those cookies. I don't know. Mr. Moore. Oh my God, these people are...
It looks like it's going to be a tie.
It looks like it's going to be a tie, the judge going to say. I don't know. Judges, keep an eye. This is a different crowd. Keep an eye on these participants. Oh my God, they're throwing them to the judges. I don't know. Bribery. Bribery. Oh, I don't know.
We got 10 three-way ties.
We have a three-way tie?
Unbelievable. 10 cookies each.
10 cookies each, the judge said.
No, he won. He won.
Who's got his pocket full? Mr. Merriman? What are we going to do? Only cookies that are in the mouth count. We're going to have to do this again. Okay, and this time the rules go. Girls, you have to count the cookies they eat, and only the cookies they eat count. So keep an eye. Each contestant should have 10 cookies on their plate. Girls, 10 cookies. And the ones in the pocket don't count. 10 cookies. And 1 more minute. Now, to police this last heat, I'm going to ask Sheila Scott, our executive director, to come up front and make sure, keep order in our last heat. Please. Our executive director. And May Cookie Lady. Yes. Judges, ready? 1, 2, 3, go. You can eat 2 at a time, 3 at a time.
happy to report that KSST's Chuck Davis did win this heat. The overall champion was Barry Holcomb of Brookshire's Grocery, who consumed over 40 cookies in less than 5 minutes. Now that's eating. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. It's been a while since we've been able to report a loss for the Sulphur Springs Lady Wildcats, but we can now. Last Friday night at Wildcat Gym, North Lamar came to town and knocked off the Lady Cats 63-57. It's the first district loss for Sulphur Springs, while North Lamar improves to 3-0.
Well, we had a chance. We played 3 quarters and then 6.5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and we're right there, with the ball with a chance to take the lead and got the play we wanted. Play that we've done 150 times this year and been successful with, and this time the pass was about a foot too high and ball went out of bounds. They went down and scored, and then after that we're trying to foul to catch up, and they made their free throws. But the one thing I told our girls before the game was that North Lamar had a lot of experience in games like that, and we hadn't played one since I've been here. So we'll have some more later on in the season that mean the same thing, and we didn't let the pressure get to us that much. We stayed with them and gave them a good game, and we just made a few too many turnovers.
North Lamar, a team that you kind of knew would be good all year long.
Yeah, they were the ones I thought would be the favorites to win it. I thought so all along. I still think so, and now they're definitely in control. All they've got to do is to win their next 2 games, and they're in the playoffs. And I really think that they're probably going to be pretty hard to beat in the second half too. But second place, nothing wrong with that. And we're going to be playing Paris Friday night for second place in the first half, I feel pretty sure. And if we can get that second place in the first half, then I'd say our chances of making the playoffs are 80% or so anyway.
Even with the loss, the Lady Cats have an outstanding record of 17-6. Mostly due in part to players like Brandy Sachs, who had 11 points in Friday night's loss to North Lamar. Brandy, just give me your overall thoughts on how the season has gone so far.
Well, I thought we did a pretty good job so far. It's a lot better than it has been last year. We've improved a lot.
What about your play? Are you happy with that?
I'd like to do a little bit better, but I think I'm pretty happy with it right now.
What are some of the areas you'd like to improve on?
Myself? Probably ball handling and shooting. I'd like to be able to shoot better.
Tell me about the loss to North Lamar. That kind of set you back just a little bit in district. Do you feel now that you're in kind of must-win situations the rest of the way?
Well, we need to win against Paris to have a shot at the playoffs. It's really important to win.
The team's leading scorer is Sheila Sims, but oddly, leadership is found in one of the youngest on the team. Kelly Bell, only a sophomore. She was on varsity last season, and she runs the offense for Coach Randy Smith and has done a good job.
Well, I think we're doing pretty good this year. We're a whole lot better than last year, and I think we're playing more as a team than we were. And it's just been a whole lot easier this year because we have a lot more talent, I think.
Well, you're kind of an interesting case because you were a freshman on the varsity last year, and you're kind of one of the veterans, even though you're only a sophomore. Do you feel you're kind of one of the team leaders this year?
Well, that's hard to say. I mean, I feel like I'm doing a whole lot better than I was last year, and it's a whole lot easier on me. But I think we play as a team. We're all good friends, and we all get along. And we play as a team. I don't think there is a team leader.
Did you have a big adjustment coming from the 8th grade right into varsity level competition? Was that kind of tough for you?
Oh yeah, it was tough. But I mean, I got experience on the JV and then brought me up to varsity. It was a lot of pressure, but I handled it, and I feel like it gave me a lot of experience for this year.
Feel like you've got a playoff team here. Is that your goal, to make it to the playoffs?
Oh yeah, I think we can do pretty well. If we beat Paris, we got it made, I think. All we got to worry about is North Lamar.
Okay. Well, they've both had real solid years this year, doing different kinds of things. Kelly is pretty much our main ball handler, and she controls the ball probably 70% of the time for us getting it down the floor. And Brandy's kind of a garbage player in a way. She You just kind of put her around where you know the ball's going to pop up and let her scrap and fight for it. And she's had a real good year doing things like that. If she was about 4 or 5 inches taller, she really would be a good player in that role. Her only drawback is at 5'4", it's pretty hard to play post, but she's done it all year long, done real well.
The Lady Cats will take on Liberty Ilo tomorrow night, a team that's really struggling. In fact, the most points they've scored in any district game is 21. Then Sulphur Springs will be on the road Friday night, a very important game at Paris. As for the boys, they lost Friday night to North Lamar 72-60. They host Liberty Ilo tomorrow night and then travel to Paris on Friday night. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Becoming an all too familiar occurrence. Hopkins County Sheriff's deputies get a tip. They move on it, and when they arrive at the location, they find drugs. It happened again yesterday, according to Hopkins County Sheriff Bill Dirks.
At a residence on County Road 4778 out in the Ridgeway area, an officer seized a half ounce of amphetamines and several ounces of marijuana at the residence out there. And they had $459 in cash. Of course, this information, the information we received from an informant, we got the warrant on that. And of course, the suspect was a Robert Lee Shook that lived in that area. He's a 57-year-old white male, and he was released on $1,000 bond. And the officers involved in this was Benny Matthews, George Back, Dennis Finley, Mike Swindell, and one of our jailers went with him, Tony Hurley.
Did you have knowledge beforehand?
Yes, that's what caused us to get the search warrant, an informant to give us the information that there was some amphetamine at the residence. I think it turned out to be about 17 grams of amphetamine that we got out of there. And I'm not sure what the value of that was, the amphetamine, yet. Of course, we got to send it to the lab and find out the purity of it.
It's just used for local trade here.
Well, we really don't know. The individual wouldn't give us any information. We tried to find out from him where he had gotten this from, but he refused to talk about it.
Do you have any suspicions as to what he was doing with it?
Oh yeah, we're pretty sure he was selling it. Yeah, positive he was selling it.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. You can sense the pride at North Hopkins High School. 2 students have recently returned from the state Beta Club convention in Austin. One, Chad Martin, was elected the Beta Club president for the entire state, and the other student, Brent McQueen, brought home speech honors.
Went down there and we were thinking about what I was going to do. There's a special room where we have it's called a campaigning room, and we have from 12 o'clock to, I believe it was 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
To campaign, and that's the only time you can pass out stuff like Chad, he's bring out the Sprite in you, or Chad, he's just what the doctor ordered, stuff like that. And I really didn't know what to expect. I've been to a Beta convention before, but this is my first time to ever run for a big office like that. So I didn't really know what to expect.
Were you a little surprised when you were elected president?
Well, yeah, I was. I knew that I had a pretty good speech. Brent here, he's a good speaker too. We help each other out a lot, and we sat down one night and we worked on his speech, and I knew I'd do good with my speech. And I like to meet people, but I was surprised. It's just hard to picture yourself as being the state president of something.
For those who don't know what the Beta Club is and what it does, kind of explain the club for me.
Okay, I'm from North Hopkins, and in Sulphur Springs they have National Honor Society. It's basically the same thing, except it's a different name, but the requirements are the same. You've got to have like a 90 and above average. Here at North Hopkins, you have a 95 and above average, and you have to keep that up for like 2-6 weeks. And now, if you go under the 95 grade point average here, you get put on probation for 1-6 weeks. And if you go for 2-6 weeks without it, then you're not a member anymore until you get your grades back up.
What would be some of your duties as the state president?
Well, I would have to lay out the format for next year's convention, I would have to plan who the guest speaker is going to be, you know, send out invitations to each school and information to each school, and basically I have to call meetings of the other, of the state vice president and state secretary, and we plan like things that we plan to do, new ideas that we might have, new programs we want to start.
I didn't receive my award until a couple days after the convention was already over, after the speech contest was conducted and everything. When I first went down there, I didn't know what to expect. Chad competed in the contest last year. I knew it would be pretty tough because Chad's a pretty good speaker, and he didn't come out real well last year, and they had some real tough competition. So I expected some tough competition. And we got down there, and the competition was tough and everything, but there's a lot of activities and all that sort going on. And we had our speech contest, I believe, what was it, Saturday? About noon Saturday, we had our speech contest, and it lasted, I think, 2:30. And that's as far as speech contest. That's just lasted about those 2.5 hours.
But how do you feel about this honor? It's got to be something you'll always remember.
Yeah, it's something that I remember, something I cherish. You know, I put a lot of work into it, and it's something that's really honored that it's a great honor to have.
The Beta Club sponsor at North Hopkins is Barbara McCullum.
Excellent students. They're always wanting to participate in everything. I didn't have any problem with getting them to want to sign up to do this, and they're active in all phases of high school life, UIL and FFA and sports.
How strong is the Beta Club here at North Hopkins?
We feel like it's pretty strong. We have 29 members. 25 went to the convention in August, which is a pretty good percentage. And it took all of them helping to help get Chad elected, campaigning and all for him. We have pretty high standards set for them. They have to maintain a 4.5 average each 6 weeks.
With their successful showing at the state conference, the boys now move on to Washington, D.C., where in June the National Beta Conference will be held, and they need some help funding that trip to Washington.
Hopefully we'll get a few donations. I'm sure we'll be having a few fundraisers for our club. We'd like to carry some other people with us. We'll have to have some people to campaign for Chad. I'd like to have a few people there to give some moral support. So we'll be having a few fundraisers, probably a couple car washes, bake sales, things of that sort in the future. And if we do, you hear about it, come out and support us. You know, we really appreciate it.
What do you plan to do after high school, Brent?
After high school, I plan to go on to college. At this time, I'm not sure what college I plan to go to. I plan to major in agricultural services and development. And right now, I'm looking at either Texas A&M or Tarleton State University.
What about you, Chad?
Well, I already do know what I'm going to major in. I'd like to major in political science and business marketing. And as for the college, it just depends what type of scholarship, because I'm not the richest of all people. I'm middle class, and I'm looking for scholarships, so that'd tell where I go. But if I had my choice, I would go to University of Texas today.
And but again, like I said, these students are involved in almost every activity that goes on here. They're here, whether it be a dance or whether it be a ball game or whatever. All of our students are involved in a lot of things.
And I guess the idea is some of the younger students will see them, and then they can lead by example in that way.
Yes, you know, that's one of the pluses that we feel our school has to offer, is that all of our students see what our older students accomplish, and that sets a good example for behavior and for education too.
When Chad and Brent aren't involved in the Beta Club, they play for the North Hopkins basketball team. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Next Thursday is a big day for all athletic directors in the state of Texas. The University Interscholastic League will have their biannual realignment of all the districts. That means that high schools don't know at this point if they will remain in their current district or if they'll be moved. Sulphur Springs, currently a member of District 15-4A, which includes Paris, North Lamar, Liberty Ilo, Texas High, and Mount Pleasant. But next Thursday, that could all change. But then again, it could stay the same.
Well, Cecil, there's all kind of speculation. Every time I talk to a coach, he's heard something different. Talking with the North Lamar head coach, athletic director, Friday night at the North Lamar basketball game, and he had heard one rumor of a district alignment, and
then somebody else had heard of another one, and there's a lot of things can happen. Of course, some people may not know exactly what we're talking about here, so maybe I ought to explain that a little bit as to what occurs. Every 2 years, the UIL realigns everybody in the state, and there's been a shortage of 4A schools. There's been more 5As and more 3As, so I look for them to try to put more schools in 4A this time. In order to do that, I've been told that they may lower the enrollment figures between 4A and 3A. That has been something like 650 or somewhere. I know the exact numbers, but it's been something in that area. And then the area between 4A and 5A has been something a little over 1,400. Those numbers could change, and it could drastically affect the schools coming into 4A. Another thing I think they don't like is the buys. 4A is the only one I know of that has the buys. For example, last year, Waxahachie and Lancaster had a bye coming into the playoffs, and gave them an extra week to prepare and to get their kids healthy and all that kind of thing, which is a disadvantage. So I think they're going to try to do away with that. I hope they do.
It's because 4A is not only the smallest classification, but it has an uneven number of districts.
That's
as well.
Exactly right. Exactly right. The bracket's drawn up with a 32-team bracket, and there's not 32 districts. I think there were 24 districts, so 8 districts got buys. It just so happened, the funny thing about that is that same district, that Wilmer Hutchins Waxahachie district, has got the bye I know the last 6 years. And even though the district numbers changed, just so happened they happen to get the bye. The reason I'm familiar with that, because when I was in Kilgore, we were playing that bunch every year, and they had the same thing down there. So pretty unusual situation.
Do you have a preference as to which district or which group you'd like to be with?
No, I think, Cecil, we're right on the border. When I say right on the border, we're not really a bona fide Deep East Texas district, nor are we a Metroplex district. Traditionally, this Sulphur Springs has been both places. When I was the head coach at Rockwall, Sulphur Springs was in our district. When I moved to Kilgore, in another district, Sulphur Springs was in our district.
So it could go either way.
It could go either way. Now, there are some schools that I hear are definitely going to 5A. For example, Mesquite Poteet, possibly Naaman Forest, but Mesquite Poteet for sure, because they're over 2,000 students, I understand. Allen thinks they're going to go 5A. They're well over 1,500. The Colony is well over 1,500, so they think they're going to go. Now, that could affect us, because if they don't have full districts back toward the Metroplex, then we could go back that direction. There's also some rumors of some schools coming up. Wiley, they think, possibly could come up. Maybank is a school that may come up, but I was talking to Coach Maybank the other day. He thinks they're going to stay down. And talk with North Lamar, they had hoped they would go down, but he told me the numbers they turned in was well up in the 700s, close to 750, so they're not going to go. LE also had hoped that possibly they could go down, but their numbers are going to be, I think, just high enough to keep that from happening. There was also some rumors of the new school, one of the new schools in Texas County, Pleasant Grove, coming up, but I understand they're not quite ready yet. If I had to guess what's going to happen, though, Cecil, I think that our district could remain pretty well intact. I've called all the district schools and talked about, we are the district chairman here at Sulphur Springs, so we're going to be responsible for calling that first meeting, which will be on Friday, the day after the realignment, and we'll draw for the new schedule.
Isn't Texas High and Liberty ILO, aren't those the two schools that hold the key to everything in 4A, because they can't go any further east? They have to go back west.
Right, just whichever way they go. Now they have, see, LE though has been, when I was in Kilgore, they were in our district down there. You know, they could go back with Carthage and Kilgore and that bunch. Now there's another possibility. Pine Tree is talking about may have enough numbers to go back to 5A, and that would be another something that could occur. Now I think the way the UIL does this thing, if I've been told that they stick pins in the map and put a rubber band around them.
Not very scientific.
And try to to hold the travel down, and then they also take into consideration old established rivalries and stuff like that.
And there are some rivalries that they want to break up, deliberately break up because it may be getting too heated.
Possibly, possibly so. And you know, they usually try to keep the city schools together because nobody wants the city schools.
And this is critical for coaches because I know you already have your non-district schedule set. And what if you get put in the district with some of those teams that you've already scheduled?
Well, there'll be a lot of scurrying going on. You know, there's a possibility of a district that we could stay right in here with this area with Paris, North Lamar, Sulphur Springs, Greenville, Terrell, Rockwall, that bunch. And if Wiley were to come up there, that would be a district right there among itself.
And you would be pretty hectic on Friday.
Oh yeah, because I've got my non-district schedule right now is, of course, none of this is confirmed because legally, UIL-wise, you're not allowed to confirm this date, but these dates. But right now, we're set up with the possibility of opening with Lindale, and then have a new school on our schedule, Robert E. Lee of Tyler, which will be a tremendous challenge for us. Second ball game, and then Greenville, possibly third, and then another new school that used to be back with us, on our schedule, Terrell, who is really, program is really coming back good again, and then White House, who is really on the upswing. So it'll be a good schedule for us. That's the 5 that we have talked to about playing. It's certainly not anything stuck in concrete, but that's possibilities.
Now, next Thursday morning, KSST Radio will have a complete list of the realignment, and that afternoon we'll have a special edition of the James Cameron Show where the coach will discuss the UIL realignment. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports. Flowers and articles of appreciation have been coming into the office of high school nurse Debbie Holder today. It's the celebration of National Nurses Week, and today and specifically is National Nurse Day.
The staff is real great to kind of help you have a real good day. I've already received flowers. I usually get cards and sometimes little gifts. This was a gift for Nurses Day. And then lots of thank yous and words of appreciation, and those are the things that really help you make it.
Now, it needs to be pointed out, of course, this is not just your day, but all the nurses around the district.
Right. In fact, this is National School Nurse Awareness Week. It's a national week, and the Wednesday, the 4th Wednesday of every January, is designated as National School Nurse Day.
Who are some of the other nurses that help out? Because I know that you kind of rotate and help in all of the schools from time to time.
Right. We have, real proud to say, we have 4 nurses in the district now. I'm staffed at high school full-time now. I'm an RN. We also have an RN, Vicki Vaughn, that is staffed full-time at middle school. And then we have Vicki Pale, who is an LVN. She has 3 of the smaller elementary campuses. And we also have Afra Evans, who's an LVN, with the other 3 campuses that are smaller. I'd like to say a word of appreciation from the nurses themselves and the district in general. Our school board and our administrators have been very progressive and very supportive to direct health services this way and to staff the district with 4 nurses. It is a Texas Education Agency recommendation that there be a nurse per 1,000, but it's not mandated or required. But our district has elected to serve the students in that capacity, and we're very proud that we meet that ratio now. We never have in the past.
And serve the students you do. Tell me about a typical day for a school nurse.
There is no such thing as a typical day. You really have to be a very flexible person. We have a lot of mandated requirements that we must do, such as keeping the immunization records updated on the 4,000 students in the district, recording the information, putting it in the health record, notifying parents when immunizations are due and needed, mandated state reports that go in annually. We have screenings that have to be done, and a lot of parents like to know at what age we do the screenings. We do vision and hearing screenings on all the pre-K students, early childhood, 1st grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, and 9th grade throughout the district annually. We add also an additional scoliosis screening. This is a screening for abnormal curvature of the spine, and we do that on all of our students in 6th and 9th because these are the years of the growth spurt when this would be detected. Here again, we have to record the information, send referrals home to the parents to notify when there's an abnormality, refer the students to medical care in all instances, and then help them find financial resources to get the care if it's not available. So other than just the things that absolutely are mandated and have to be done, of course, first and foremost, we're here for first aid and illness treatment of the kids.
Well, I was going to ask, is there one common thing that you treat here?
No, you can see anything. See, when you're housed in a building with 1,000 students, on any given day, you're going to see a little bit of everything. You know, I've already had a girl come in that needed her blood pressure checked because she's on blood pressure medication. I've already had a drill team student come in that got hit in the nose, and we've done the ice routine and checked to make sure there wasn't a fracture. And a student has come in with a stomach virus, and this is just my first hour. And of course, like I say, the reason you need to be so flexible is because while you're taking care of the needs of these students, in the back of your mind you realize that I've got to get this report out, I've got to do this test today, I've got to do this, but the health of the students come first.
And aren't you also a big-time friend to the kids? Because sometimes it's not so much treatment, but they may need to talk about a health-related matter.
Definitely. People will be absolutely just amazed at the amount of just health education I do on an individual basis with students and staff. I have teachers, administrators, and principals that will come to me. Sometimes I'm able to save someone a trip to the doctor's office or maybe skip a certain phase and go on to a specialist. We do a lot of individual health care education. Along the lines of education too, I'd like to mention how much now we're able to do in the way of health education now that we're fully staffed. We're real proud of our HIV AIDS education programs we've expanded this year, 4th grade through 12th. We're doing some things that we've never done before. We've even added a 3-week curriculum through the health classes at middle school that Vicki Vaughn is very involved in, and we're real proud to get started this year. We appreciate the support of the school board and the administrators on helping to fully staff our health services and enabling us to do so much more with what we have instead of just the bare necessities.
She says that the school nursing field has really changed over the years, and she is working very closely with high school athletic trainer Melissa Lassiter, and they have a lot of work to do because athletes tend to get hurt a lot. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
First of all, they are migratory. It's not a year-round thing. They come in, once or twice a year during this time of year.
And such begins the case of the birds. It's like something, of course, out of the great Alfred Hitchcock movie. Thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of birds invade Sulphur Springs during the early morning and evening hours. The city of Sulphur Springs has been pondering just what to do about the bird problem.
We get a lot of complaints about it. And of course, all we can do is go out and we have our animal control people go out with a discharge and we'll fire a discharge, and that'll scare the birds away and they'll go somewhere else. Of course, it's kind of a hopscotch thing where they go from one spot to the other. It really, as far as what can you do, all you can do is try to keep them on the move. It would virtually be impossible to eradicate those birds from the city because of their mass numbers.
Yeah, you're not actually trying to kill them.
No, that's correct. In fact, we're not. Our discharge is simply nothing but noises. We're not, trying to shoot the birds. Simply trying to keep them moving. There've been a lot of things that have been suggested to me in a lot of various ways. If the folks don't want them around their house, they've been suggested they might tie a pie plate, a metal pie plate in their trees, so that when the wind blows, it'll move, and that keeps the birds away, or in their garages or in their backyards. So anything that will move, generally will scare them away and keep them from landing there.
If people are getting a little tired of these unwelcome guests, who do they get in touch with?
Call the police department, and our animal control people will come out and try to move them on.
Well, that process is easier said than done. In fact, it flat out hasn't worked. Sulphur Springs animal control officers, led by Rex Morgan, have tried to get rid of the birds using shotgun blasts, but the birds won't leave, and Morgan says they fought a losing battle and are pretty much ready to give up.
A couple of months ago, we started receiving complaints around town, especially out in the southeast part of town itself, in reference to these birds that like to hang out every year. This year's not anything different, but I guess we could say it might be different in the fact that it didn't turn cold as fast as it normally does in years past, and the birds tend to hang around. These birds are usually on further south by now, and not our problem or somebody else's problem in a different town. This year also, we seem like there's more of these birds hanging around in the area than we've normally had. We have equipment that we use, which we call M80 Shot Shells. Basically, it's a 12-gauge projectile that shoots out of a 12-gauge shotgun. In about 100 to 200 foot down range, it will explode. There's absolutely no harm that's incurred to the birds, and nor will it harm a human unless it goes off a foot out of the barrel. This has tended to only move the birds from one location to another location, basically within the same block. And of course, every time this is discharged, the birds tend to flock and fly off.
You're just moving them to another location?
Yeah, thousands at a time. And these thousands of birds decide to defecate at the same time after being scared by this shot shell. And in fact, now what we're doing, we're probably adding a hazard to the situation other than what existed.
Were they causing any damage to any property at all?
No, they were not causing any damage to any property that I have received a complaint on. They were, of course, roosting in trees, waking people up early in the morning, being a problem to constituents of restaurants in that area, just a general eyesore.
And the bottom line is you fought basically a losing battle.
Right, we're fighting a losing battle.
So have you discontinued that program?
We've discontinued that program due to the fact that we might be incurring more of a hazard than actually existed.
Do you expect the birds to move on? Is it a migration?
It's a migration that the birds go through every year, and they will move on if we can just tolerate them being here a little bit longer.
So if you're becoming a little frustrated with some unwanted neighbors in your neighborhood, there's simply not a lot you can do about it. You just have to be patient and wait till they decide to move on. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. The Sulphur Springs soccer Wildcats made it 2 wins in a row in the young season with a sloshing 3-1 victory over Rockwall last night at Gerald Prim Stadium.
First home game of the year, and it was good to beat Rockwall out here at Gerald Prim Stadium.
Tell me how the game went for you.
Well, they scored pretty early, and it seemed like they took the momentum pretty quick. They scored, and it was up 1-0, and our guys kind of responded to it, and we come back and scored and tied it up 1-1, and then Mark Severe scored late in the first half, and we went in the halftime up 2-1.
Mark Severe obviously has good games just about every night. Who else played well for you?
Our defense always plays good. We've got a fantastic defense. Justin Pugh played good as a keeper. He had 7 saves. Kenny Baskin played good. Cameron Lewis and also Cedric Berry played good as a sweeper.
Now, the weather was atrocious last night. Rain, kind of cold. What's it like trying to play soccer in those kind of conditions?
Well, it's something you just got to really get yourself into a good mindset. You got to forget about the weather, and you got to get out there and play. Just get out there and play hard. And the weather can go for you if you'll let it. Because some of those other teams, they may be a little bit timid. And if you get out there and you play hard, you kind of forget about it and you get wrapped up in the game. And yeah, it works to our advantage. We always talk up. We like bad weather. We hope we have playing a lot in bad weather because it suits our style.
What's next for you?
We play Jacksonville there Friday night. The JV starts at 5 and the varsity starts at 7.
Do you know anything about them?
I don't know what the record is, but I've heard that they've got a pretty good team this year.
Wildcats roll in.
It is not every day that a student, especially a K or first grade student, has the opportunity to meet a president, especially when it's Abraham Lincoln. That's what happened today at Houston School. Actually, of course, it's not the real Abraham Lincoln. It's Homer S. Sewell III, who travels across America portraying our 16th president. And he was at Houston School this morning, and not only does he portray Abraham Lincoln, but he brings many of the values that Honest Abe brought back in the 1860s.
The whole gist of it all, I guess if you were to boil it down into a nutshell, is that I'm trying to help the teachers and the parents with what they're doing. And I think sometimes the kids, regardless of age, listen a little bit more maybe to me as the man I represent than maybe they would to you or a parent or a teacher. So if it helps reinforce those things, those values that, and each story that I tell has got a moral value to it, so that it's things that they need to hear and that they need to be reinforced with. And I guess it all boils down to the fact that I don't want them to ever give up. Lincoln never gave up. I don't want them to ever give up. Does anybody know what my nickname was? Do you know what they used to call me, boys and girls? When you get a little bigger, you'll study about it. They called me Honest Abe. And do you know why they called me Honest Abe? Because I always told the truth. Do all of you always tell the truth? To your teachers and moms and dads and all your friends, that's very important, isn't it, boys and girls, to always tell the truth.
How long have you been doing this?
17 years. I started down in Orlando in 1975, and the schools that I'm doing here in Sulphur Springs now, I think today is number 638 or 39, and I just went full-time last year. I'd been part-time, and last year alone, during school year of 90-91, I did 333 performances in 17 states in 300 different towns. And a lot of it was here in Texas. I came to Texas for the first time in September of 90. And I liked Texans, and Texans liked me, and so I came back to the principals convention in Austin in June and met a lot of the principals, and a lot of what I'm doing now is because of that. I was here, Region 8 Service Center, that is in Mount Pleasant. They've got a lot of drug money to try and help keep the kids off of drugs, so they're the ones that are paying for me to be here in Sulphur Springs. But I've got a lot more. I'm going to be zigzagging all across the state, Houston, Lubbock, from one end to the other, all during January, February, and March. You can grow up to be anything you want to. One of you little girls could be the first girl president. Would you like to be the first girl president? Come here a minute. I'll bet you'd make a good president. What's your name? Huh? Jennifer. Jennifer, if you become the first girl president and you get to Washington, to the White House, will you invite us all to come up and have dinner with you there? Wouldn't that be neat? Now, Jennifer, when you get up there, you might have to wear the president's hat, so we're going to have to make sure it's going to fit you okay. All right, you ready? Let's see here. Where'd you go? It swallowed you up, didn't it, Jennifer? When you get bigger, it's going to fit you just fine, and I want you to be the First Lady President, okay?
How much about the man did you have to learn, and how long have you been accumulating that knowledge?
I've been studying for 17 years. I've got about 100 books on Lincoln in my own library at home, and I study every chance I get. I've still got lots of books that I haven't even read yet. And every time I get a chance to sit down and read some more, I do that. And if I see something that's a story that I think is a little better than what I've been telling, then I'll change things around. But just trying to learn things, it's surprising the questions that they can come up with, and not often that they stump me.
Well, what's one of the more interesting questions you've been asked?
Oh, I had one the other day. You'd have gotten a kick out of it. I tell them the story in the big assembly, and I may tell it to this group here about the riverboat trip when I was about 19 years old, and how 7 big, bad, ugly bandit pirate types, when we pulled into shore one night, tried to come out there and kill us and steal our boat and all of our goods, and how strong as I was, because I could hold a big heavy axe right straight out. Alan and I, just the two of us that were on the boat, were able to fight off those 7 pirates. And the other day after the assembly, one of the students said, "Well, Mr. Lincoln, what was the name of those pirates?" And I said, "Young man, We were so busy fighting them off, we didn't have time to ask for ID. When I was about 23 years old, about the age of your teachers, I was working in the store in New Salem, Illinois. And a lady came into the store one day. Her name was Mrs. Hildy. She came in and she said, "Mr. Lincoln, I've got this long list of goods here. I need some help with it. Could you help me?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'd be glad to." One of the things that Mrs. Hildy wanted was a nickel's worth of tea. Now, boys and girls, back then, we didn't have tea bags like you do now. We had loose tea, and it had to be weighed on this little balance scale. I went over to the scale, and I put the weight on the scale, weighed up this nickel's worth of tea for Mrs. Hildy, put it in a little bag, and gave it to her, along with all those other things she had asked for, and she headed on home to her cabin 4 miles out in the woods. Pretty soon, I closed the store, and I went on home. Next morning, I came in and I got my broom and I was sweeping the floor, getting things all cleaned up for another day's business. Got my dusting brush and was dusting around. I got over to that little balance scale. I about had a heart attack. The weight that was on the scale from the day before, I'd forgotten to put it back in the weight box, and it was not for a nickel's worth of tea that I remember Ms. Hildy had asked me for. It was for only 4 cents worth of tea. Boys and girls, I had cheated Mrs. Hildy out of a penny's worth of tea. And back then, a penny was a whole lot more valuable than it is now. Now, I've got 3 choices of what to do. I need you to help me figure out what you think I should do. I could put that penny in my pocket and just make an extra penny's profit from the day before, but that wouldn't be right, would it, boys and girls? I could give Mrs. Hildy back the penny, or I could give Mrs. Hildy some more tea. What do you reckon I should do, boys and girls? Good. I'm glad you decided I should give her some more tea, because that's what I thought too. Since that is what she came into the store for, I weighed up more than a penny's worth of tea, put it in a bag, closed the store, walked across town, 4 miles out in the woods to her cabin. I got out there and she said, "Mr. Lincoln, I appreciate it, but you didn't have to walk all the way out here to bring me that extra tea. You could have just given it to me the next time I came to town." And I said, "But Mrs. Hildy, I didn't know when you might be coming to town again, and this seemed like the fair and honest thing for me to do, was to bring it out here to you." Pretty soon, the word got out around New Salem that if you wanted to be treated fairly and honestly, you go to Abraham Lincoln's store, because Honest Abe was going to take good care of you. And that's how I got the nickname Honest Abe. And now you know the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. Now, before I let you go, there's a couple of things I want to make sure that you remember. Number one, every chance you get, let's make sure we read lots of good books. Number two, let's make sure that we always tell the truth. Number three, let's make sure when we get bigger we always say no to drugs. And number four, let's give our teachers lots of hugs. Thank you very much, boys and girls. You've been a good group. How are you? To Rockford. I was up there. That's really a neat place. That's a long ways from here, isn't it?
His stay in Sulphur Springs will conclude tomorrow. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Give you a little speech to take home with you that I gave. Hi there, how are you? You sure are mighty pretty.
You ever get so busy that you just don't have time to go by the public library and drop off that book that's late? Well, the Sulphur Springs Library hopes they have a way to take care of that little problem. It's an outside drop box. Librarian Wilma Taylor says it should come in handy.
When people come to return their books and maybe they're in a hurry and there may be somebody parked out front, there's an hour parking limit there, and then I think, oh, I can't stop now, I don't have time to go park the car and return the books, so they will drive off, and then maybe they're overdue, and then first one thing and another. This is to get people to return their books and it's just like the drive-in bank. If you can drive by and drop them in, it's just a lot easier to do. Also, sometimes when we have a long weekend like Labor Day, if a lot of people decide to return their books early, the little tiny book drop in the vestibule will overflow and books will be all over the floor. And then if a rainstorm comes, and this has happened, I have come in here and there'd be lots of books just soaked. And sometimes they don't dry without getting mildewed, and if mildew gets in a book, it has to be destroyed because it will just spread like cancer. Anyway, we're hoping to make it easier for the patrons to return books and return them on time.
How did you come about getting this one?
Well, I'd been wanting one for quite some time. Well, one of the things that happened is sometimes people drive up and they put them in the mailbox, and the post office is a little bit unhappy when they drop books in the mailbox because they have to come in and return them to us. And so I thought, well, if we could get a book drop out there, and I thought it would make it easier for people to return the books if they didn't have to get out of their cars. And of course, it was painted yellow. There was some man here in town, and I have to admit I don't know who he is, but he made the box and he made it metal. It does have the spring-loaded platform inside, so that the more books you get, the lower the thing goes. It's emptied twice a day. People are beginning to use it a little more and a little more. And then Jiffy signs or Jiffy decals or Jiffy somebody made the decals that we put on. And I had them made to scale, so especially the ALA library logo. And of course, they're blue and the other is yellow, and that's the Sulphur Springs city colors.
Okay. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. It won't be long before the seasons change and the Wildcats hit the baseball field under first-year head coach Jason Stanley, who takes over a young team, and he's excited, as you might be able to tell, about the prospects for 1992. Tell me when practice starts.
The first day in which we can legally practice after school is February 3rd. That's the first day. That's a Monday, the first Monday in February.
Are you getting ready for that?
Yes. I've been, after the first semester was over, I started going over to the high school the last period day, which is 6th period. It starts at 2:15, and then work with the baseball off season. And there's like around 17 or 18 boys in there right now. 5 of them are seniors, and the rest are either juniors or sophomores.
Now, people will see a few changes as far as Eagle Stadium. You have taken out part of the fence, and you're going to change dugouts.
Right.
Just kind of tell me some of the changes.
Let's see. Luckily, I had someone here in town that donated. It was 88 gallons of paint to me, and free. And then I would like to get that fence painted, and then I'm gonna move the dugout, the home side dugout back over to third base. Let's see. And then a batting cage. The batting cage is gonna be moved back down to left field line. And then the way the maintenance is going to build it is that it will be in poles in the ground, but it's going to be on the football field, like where the old field house, like the old Alamo that they called it down there. It's going to be down there, and it's that way during baseball season. Like you can put it up, but then after you can put it up, and then you can store the net, and then it just longer life on your equipment.
It is way too early, I think, for you to get a true reading of what the team is going to be like. But what about attitude with the off-season players that you've been working with?
So far, so good. All of them are they pay attention, and if you do correct them, usually you can tell if you tell someone and something goes in one ear and right the other. Most of them pay attention, and then it is a real good learning environment. It's different than the classroom, but then you can tell that they're paying attention. So far, so good. coaches this spring is that Tim White is going to be coaching the freshmen. And Don Moffitt, Coach Moffitt, will be coaching the JV team. And then Ron Hawley, another middle school coach here, is going to be helping with the varsity.
The Wildcats will hit the field for the first time on Tuesday, February 11th, a scrimmage against Paris. The first real game of the season will be February 25th at Lindale. The first home game, March the 3rd, against the Quinlan Panthers. And district play begins March the 31st at North Lamar. Cecil Savage, 18 Country Sports. The 66th Annual Hopkins County Chamber of Commerce Membership Banquet was held last night at Sulphur Springs High School. A large crowd turned out, of course, and the 4 awards were presented for Agriculturist of the Year, Lady of the Year, the Rural Beautification Award, and also the biggest, the Citizen of the Year. That award was presented by Clark Keyes of the Echo Publishing Company.
The son of our Citizen of the Year, recognized in 1968, is being recognized tonight. Charles Helm, would you step forward as Citizen of the Year, please?
Well, I hope you don't think I'm going to say something intelligent. I don't know what to say. This is fantastic. I didn't expect that there's so many people that deserve a piece of this. I've been involved in a lot of things, but it's taken so many people out here, and people that aren't even here tonight, that have made things work, and everybody deserves a piece of it. I guess, like Monty's been saying, and Mel, it's teamwork. That's what's made it all work, the teamwork. It's the Harv Chapmans, the Monty Harris, the Mel Prices, the Barry Orrs, the past presidents, the future presidents that carry the torch for the chamber, that make everything worthwhile, and all the council and the boards and associations and the committees and everything. Everybody here plays a part to make this community such a great one. And not just me. Everybody here does so much. You know, Hopkins County is not a perfect utopia, but that's what's good about it. Everybody's trying to make it better and better every day. It's not a perfect utopia, but we got a quality of life that's second to none. I feel that way.
He's most happy when he's showing what he refers to as his, quote, Mickey
The Agriculturist of the Year was presented by Jim Wyrick, president of the Hopkins County Professional Ag Workers Association.
Which has been in very little change since 1971. Many people from across Texas have come to visit his dairy, as well as other states. He's even had visitors as far as way as Scotland and Pakistan to see his dairy. He enjoys talking about the dairy operation, changes in the dairy industry throughout the years, and just plain visiting in general. There's going to be an article appearing in the Texas Monthly about his dairy in the near future, so be watching for that. But be it a class, school class, tour bus, just an individual, everybody's always welcome on his dairy. For these accomplishments and many more which we don't have time to go into tonight, it's my great privilege to present the Agriculturist of the Year Award to Wayne Tittle. I'm not sure where the plaque is, Wayne. You got one coming, I don't know where it is. No. Is it here? Somebody know?
It's right there, I'm sorry, Ken.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm not a speaker, but this is a real surprise and a great honor. All I can say is thank you.
Serving as an officer of the Salvation Army,
Phyllis Rogers of Beta Sigma Phi presented the award for Woman of the Year.
And comfort to innumerable persons in need. She makes herself available both day and night to help victims of natural disasters, fires, victims of domestic violence, as well as to the poor and to the disadvantaged. Going well beyond her role, she has served with compassion, doing what more of us should be doing. She's also served endless hours in supporting the Sulphur Springs Volunteer Fire Department. They write, in the midst of smoke and flames, as we battle to the point of exhaustion, she has suddenly appeared, offering encouragement, relief, and refreshment. In this manner, she has assisted in saving of lives and of property. As I mentioned earlier, hers is not a name known to many people. One of her nominations referred to her as one of the best-kept secrets of Sulphur Springs. She represents all that is good about our community and is the epitome of the volunteer. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Beta Sigma Phi's Woman of the Year, Phyllis Lloyd.
Don't pop it here. This lady used to live next door to me, and I bet she couldn't have kept the secret that long if she still lived over there. I appreciate this very much, and I don't do any more than anyone else, but I do enjoy kids and band kids and softball kids and all kinds of kids, and I enjoy helping people through the Salvation Army too, and I appreciate this honor. Thank you very much.
Because this year's winning couple.
And the Shannon Carpenter Rural Beautification Award was presented by County Commissioner H.W. Hopkins.
County. Both are graduates of Sulphur Springs High School. They are very successful business people in their community. They have raised a fine family of 2 sons and 1 daughter. And they are now proud grandparents of 6 grandchildren. It takes a lot of time and a lot of pride to keep a beautiful home, lawn, and garden. At any time you drive out on Highway 154, you may see one or both of them working in the yard. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great privilege to present this year's Shannon Carpenter Rural Beautification Award to James and Mildred Cross. Excuse me. James and Mildred, it's with honor that I represent you with this flag.
Thank you, Agent.
Yeah. 9%.
Well, I'm kind of like old Monty was. I don't guess I'll ever get a chance to speak before such a distinguished group. And I'm like Wayne Tittle, I'm certainly not a speaker. I'd like to say that we, Millie and me, accept this award with lots of humility because we know that there's many deserving places that are real pretty in Hopkins County. But we are real pleased and honored, and we thank you very much.
The Chamber of Commerce banquet will be presented as part of an 18 Country special at a later date. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. You plan to vote in the March 10th primary election, you probably need to check your voter registration card to make sure that you are to vote in the correct box. There's a good deal of confusion in Hopkins County, and County Tax Assessor Collector Jo Ruth Hodge says the reason for the confusion is twofold.
Kind of explain to me.
Okay, let's first start off, Cecil, that in December that the state of Texas requires that we mail out new registration to everyone. So this time we sent out around 14,000 new registration cards. Okay, we have about 1,300 of those returned to the office as the post office cannot deliver them because the state will not let them forward. So the first thing we need to do is to that all these people that have not gotten their first voter's registration card is to check with the office to see why. Now this could be due to a box number change or a route change, or you've changed your name and they won't forward it on. So they need to get back in contact with us because at this point we've coded them, which we call a 50, as return cards. Okay, we'll keep these cards until around August. Then we have to purge them from our list. Now when we purge them, that means that they're no longer registered voters. So they need to come back in the office. They'll have to fill out another voter's registration application card, just like they did from the very beginning, and wait their 30 days prior to election. And then the next thing that has come about that we've confused people with, that we have now what they call the redistricting. Okay, when we went through this redistricting, that we put in a new box, which is we call 3A. All these people that's been registered prior has been registered in what they call box 3. 3A is now, will begin out here on Interstate 30 at the Shaggy Road, comes all the way back through the loop, which is taking in Houston Street, which Houston Street at one time was in what they call the box 4A. Now they are going to be called 3A. 3A votes at the fire station on Church Street. So that means that we've moved a box precinct line there. Okay, then we get out in the rural areas. Precinct 2 there's part that's been given to Precinct 3, which is Delbert Tully. It's taken from Holcomb to Delbert Tully. So those people out in that precinct needs to check with us to see that their voter's card is right, because they're probably in the wrong box, the wrong precinct. Then we go over in 4. Precinct 4 stays basically the same, with the exceptions of the precinct lines there. Okay, when we did all this, we also changed people's voting boxes. We now have one at the Lutheran Church, which is still there. We have 1A, which it once was Bowie School. Now they vote at the City Hall. We have 2A, that's still at the Senior Citizen Building. Then we have 3, which is at the Rema Church. Then we have 3A, which I said was at the fire station on Church Street. And then 4 is the State Bank. And then 4A is the middle school. Okay, then we have the box number 2, which was at the Gray Building. Now it's moved to the VFW hut. So we've not only confused people on what precinct where they vote, and by setting up another box has got them all confused. So now what we need is the people to work with us. We're now going through our map trying to establish what needs to go in 3A, what needs to stay in 3, what precinct you're actually in, but we're going to need their cooperation to be for sure that we're doing it correctly.
And how do they do that?
They can either call us or come by. Now, if you're out in the rural area, if they'd come by and look at our rural map, it will help. Right now, we have the city map color-coded in, where we can go through, pretty well there. But out in the rural area, it gets hard to establish the boundary lines.
She says that if you feel that you are going to have a problem, you need to get in touch with them soon, because absentee voting will begin before you know it, and you will have problems voting absentee if your card is not correct. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
But as far as voting, no one can be denied the right to vote.
Okay. Anything else? Everybody needs to practice, especially those involved in the emergency rescue business. Members of the Hopkins County EMS, the hazmat team, and others are involved this morning in a mock disaster drill at Kim Chur. What's involved is a chemical spill, and there are injuries.
The hazmat officer advised us you need to set up your decon outside the ER.
The reason that we're doing this drill, the hospital needs to have at least one practice run a year to comply with commission guidelines. This is not a drill specifically made up for the HM response team, but that for the emergency room services. Decontamination center has been set up in the emergency room. When these victims get out there, of course, they'll have to be decontaminated. The heart attack victim will have to be taken care of due to the heart attack first, and then the decontamination, or then look into the product itself. And they're just trying to make an attempt to set up their decon center properly. which they do a very good job. They've had to set it up several times in the past.
Is this type of exercise beneficial?
This type of exercise is very beneficial. It shows us who's maybe doing the correct thing on this type of response and who may need just a little touch-up. Most of the time on the touch-up work is the first responding units are usually the ones that get into trouble right off the bat.
Okay, so now the fireman is going to have to be decontaminated because that chemical will go through his clothes.
Exactly. If it's
down.
Everybody that comes in contact with that chemical, regardless of what kind of outfit they have on, they have to be decontaminated before they can come back out to their vehicle. But before you all even touch that patient, you're going to have to be decontaminated from head to toe, or you won't even get them. Okay? So that when they go into ER shouldn't even have to decontaminate them. Right. They should be cleaned that well.
This particular product is used for insecticides, and of course it's a health hazard, or acute and chronic, and it's also a carcinogenic product, or could be. The target organs on this are the liver, kidneys, central nervous system, cardiovascular system. Over a long-term period of time, these people are, especially the heart attack victim that's got this product on him in copious amounts, will probably have to have a full blood workup because his kidneys could be affected by it in the very near future. Some of the signs and symptoms of exposure are excessive sweating, headache, weakness, giddiness, nausea, vomiting, stomach pains, blurred vision, slurred speech, and muscle twitching and diarrhea. And again, this is malathion, which you can buy off the shelves and use at home. So right now, I would like to just add that anytime you buy a pesticide or insecticide, to follow the instructions on the label.
Okay. The operation was a smooth success. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. On Christmas Eve, Cooper Lake was less than 2 feet from being full. The gates were closed September 28th, and in less than 3 months, it's over 44 feet, less than 2 feet to go. And everyone figured it would be full by New Year's Day. But a month later, it's not full. First, the rain stopped, and Cooper Lake leveled off at just under 439 feet. Full would be 440. And when the rains did come, they opened the gates. This Thursday afternoon, the water was roaring and foaming out of the gates and down the outlet works and down to the South Sulphur River below the dam, right on the Hopkins Delta County line, and on downstream. The reason they didn't let Cooper Lake fill or to even above the water supply pool was that the Corps learned that the Sulphur River Exploration Company had not plugged 2 oil gas wells in the lake bed, and both were just about underwater. The engineers announced a week ago that they would temporarily operate Cooper Lake at its current level to enable the Sulphur River Exploration Company to plug 2 wells in the upper reaches of the project. Colonel John Mills, the Fort Worth District Engineer, said the lake level and the amount of water they might release through the gates would depend on the quantity of rainfall captured by the lake and the downstream conditions. Since the first of the year, about 2.5 inches of water has fallen on that watershed. And Sally Wurst, who speaks for the Corps of Engineers, said it's flowing in faster than they are letting it out. Remember, full is 440 feet.
Bill, we're releasing currently around 1,800 cubic feet per second. Coming into the lake to Cooper, the inflow is almost 2,800 cubic feet per second. So what is happening is the lake level is rising slowly as you get more and more rain over the watershed. But we are doing some releases, and we hope that we will be able to stabilize the lake level at around 438.88. This morning it was 439.28, slightly over what we would like for it to be.
They intend to hold it below full until those 2 oil wells are plugged.
That is correct. That is our intention.
The amount of water in the lake is mind-boggling.
25,939 acre-feet of water currently at Cooper Lake. An acre-foot is 1 acre of water 1 foot deep, and there are 25,939 acre-feet. A lot of water. I am just astounded that it filled so fast. You know, from the dedication time that I saw the lake on the 28th of September until now, you know, just about 3 months fill, which is the fastest fill that we know of in this area ever. with the exception of Lake Arlington, which is a very, very teeny lake and is not a core lake. You know, it is just really, truly amazing that it has filled that fast. But then if you look at the whole weather patterns for December and January, you see that we've had significant rainfall over about 6 river basins, to include yours and the Sabine, the Neches, mostly the Trinity, the Brazos, the Guadalupe, and the Colorado. Of our 25 flood control structures, we have 22 in the flood pool. Cooper is almost there. And so, you know, we really have what is proven through these rains and having the core projects in place is that literally billions of dollars of damages have been prevented because the structures are there.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Members of the Northeast Texas Tactical Narcotics Unit, the Hopkins County Sheriff's Department, the Sulphur Springs Police Department, the Department of Public Safety, and Hopkins County Constables conducted a major drug sweep Friday evening. 33 sealed indictments were returned by Hopkins County Grand Jury Friday morning, leading to the operation. And as of this morning, 22 persons had been taken into custody, with additional arrests expected. At least 30 officers from Hopkins County and as far away as Garland took part. Hopkins County District Attorney Frank Long said that all the indictments are for delivery of crack cocaine.
Go get them.
What's going on here tonight is that over the past 6 months, actually since June 1st of this last year, 1991, we've had working here in Hopkins County and several other counties in this area a tactical narcotics team, short is TNT, that has been a cooperative effort of the Sheriff's Office here, the City of Sulphur Springs, several other counties involved, along with our local constables' offices. We've had undercover officers working, making buys, drug buys throughout that time, and tonight as a result of those buys, we're out serving 33 indictments that were returned by the grand jury here today. Task force is headed up by the Department of Public Safety, and we have officers from Garland as well as from Texarkana here, actually from all over the area. Undercover officers as well as street close officers.
The Northeast Texas Tactical Narcotics Team covers a 33-county area around Northeast Texas, and Long says many of those arrested Friday night had been familiar to the Sulphur Springs and local law enforcement officials.
Many of the names that we're making arrests on tonight are familiar names, people we've either sent to the penitentiary before or have not had knowledge of them dealing in crack cocaine.
Any of them dangerous?
Well, there's some, yeah, that are dangerous. You know, as in any case like this, you're aware of what's happened in Dallas over the last couple of months, and some of the people here have said they wouldn't be taken by police officers to the undercover officers, not knowing that they were police, of course. So there's some danger involved, sure.
And they do carry weapons.
And there's some of them that are carrying weapons.
Officials say that all 33 indictments are the work of one undercover narcotics agent who would make crack deals in Sulphur Springs. Frank Montana, lieutenant with the Department of Public Safety in Garland, says that undercover work is dangerous, and the one that used the Sulphur Springs area for his base will now move on, but others will follow in his steps.
The particular undercover officer that worked this group will move on somewhere else and work another group. We'll bring a new one in. They know that, so we're not telling them anything that they don't know on the street, you know. We might be working tomorrow undercover on a different group, so the effective our undercover people will be curtailed to this one officer, because those people will know he's an undercover officer. But new ones that are not known to this area will be effective, and that's what we intend to do. I think all the drug dealers know that, so we're not telling them anything that that's any secret or anything.
So when you make a bust this size, if you made a dent, how long does it take for them to fill in that dent?
Doesn't take long. It depends on how long they stay in jail and how long they go to the pen and stay there.
Those arrested range in age roughly from 17 to about 50. Bond was set by the grand jury on each person at between $15,000 and $25,000.
The people who are being brought in tonight you're not going to see a lot of high-income people brought in on this particular event tonight. I think you'll see that later coming along.
Sulphur Springs Chief of Police Donnie Lewis says that the department often receives tips from citizens about illegal drug activity. And he says that Friday night's drug sweep is an example that information doesn't go unheard.
To the people that we have told that we're doing something, this proves it tonight that something's being done in Sulphur Springs and Hopkins County on the narcotic situation. But you can't just, when you're working this type of operation, and we do get those phone calls, which I'm sure the sheriff here can vouch, that me and him get calls like that all the time, and that shows us that we can go out and work these type of operations and that we are doing something.
In addition to the 22 arrested, officers also seized at least 3 vehicles, $1,000 in cash, and a quarter ounce of cocaine. The operation began at 6:30 Friday evening and will continue until all 33 persons indicted are arrested. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.
Not many more left. Y'all take care.
A potentially disastrous situation was avoided Friday when 1,700 gallons of gasoline from a business leaked into the local sewer system. That happened Friday. The local Sulphur Springs hazmat team responded to the situation, and Sergeant Rex Morgan says that by Friday night, everything had been brought under control.
At 12:10 p.m. on Friday afternoon, Sulphur Springs Fire Department received a call from 626 Church Street dentist office. That's basically directly across from the central fire station. Fire personnel just walked across the street to check the situation out. The initial call came in from the receptionist there at the dental office, complained of smelling a gas odor and was becoming dizzy and lightheaded and maybe a little nauseous along with that. Of course, initial response would maybe indicate natural gas, and when I arrived at the location, along with the firefighters, went to the dental office itself, which is a pier and beam structure, and sniffed under the house, and it was quite apparent this was not natural gas due to an additive in natural gas called mercaptan. That's that skunk-like odor that you'd smell. The odor which initially that I picked up on just by using my nose was benzene. Benzene is an additive, the aromatic additive into automotive fuel, or one of the additives in automotive fuel, and has a very unique and odor of its own. At this particular point, we attempted to take a reading under the house. We got an explosive limit from under the house. Right after that, we set up a fan and opened up the backside of the structure itself to blow these fumes out. After doing this, we started checking the cleanouts around the sewer system. Took several readings around the location, took several readings, in fact, from basically the coverage on this was Mulberry to Davis, Davis to Jackson, Jackson to Church, the tracks, that entire block area there. We took about 6 explosive limit readings within and under structures and in the septic system throughout that location. We did go around door to door, indicate to people what we had and that they need to turn off their pilot lights and not be using their electricity as any possible. We only had one incident where the odor was so pungent, or the fumes were so pungent, that is, that one resident did clear the area and went and stayed with someone else. Later on in the afternoon, as we're trying to backtrack this, looking at our sewer system chart that was provided by the City Hall, we conducted a search northbound on Church Street and was not able to get any type of reading from the cleanouts just north of the railroad track. Then at that particular point, Norman Sanders, who's a member of the hazardous materials team, was assisted by Tim Vaughn, firefighter, and also Eric Hill, who is also a member of the HM team. Started working the area again, trying to locate explosive limit readings within the area. After they completed that task, they went ahead and opened up a larger area that they would work and sort of scanned out. At that particular time, they started working east, opened up a manhole after several had already been opened, manhole on Church Street at the railroad track, and basically the septic flow runs east to west. There's a line running east to west and then a line running north and south on that particular manhole. They opened up that, and we looked at that location, see heavy concentrations of blended gasoline running from the east into that manhole and then back to the south again. They went ahead and backtracked this by looking in two other manholes to a location in the 600 block of Mulberry Street. This was all taking place around 4 p.m. after the Texas Water Commission and State Fire Marshal's office had been contacted. At this particular time, there were two fire marshals en route, one from Austin and one from Duncanville, due to the fact that it was a potentially hazardous situation, and then on most of these cases it takes maybe weeks to backtrack the location from where the spill is occurring. Anyway, after Norman and Tim checked the area, they located this place in the 600 block of Mulberry at a business where a 2,000-gallon underground storage tank, gasoline tank, was being offloaded directly into the sewer system itself.
Any reason why?
The reason why at this particular time, from indications from the people offloading the tank were they were under the impression that the tank was full of water.
Is there a possibility of any charges being levied against this business or anything?
Okay, the city of Sulphur Springs did issue a citation. I issued this citation on Saturday morning to the business itself. Basically, it's a fire code violation, discharging flammable liquids on the ground, and that comes directly out of the standard fire code, 1988 edition.
How potentially dangerous was this?
It was very, very dangerous at that particular time to the people in these pier and beam residences where we were getting the explosive limit readings. What readings we're looking for is within the LEL and UL, the lower explosive limit and the upper explosive limit. Anything below that is too lean, and anything above that is too rich. However, that rich reading could become just right at any particular time. So basically, under this dental office, at the time the call came in, if you'd struck a match and stuck it under there, it would no longer be pier and beam, it would be slab. The Texas Water Commission.
In addition to the charges filed by the city, Morgan says it's possible that the state may also file charges against the business. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Many youngsters, as they're growing up, like to join the Cub Scouts, and from there you move to the Boy Scouts. Well, Lucky McDowell in Sulphur Springs is taking Boy Scouting a bit further. He is one of the few that will attempt to go after a Eagle badge, and it's a long, tedious process.
First working toward my Eagle badge about 6 months ago, or 5 or 6 months ago, planning it out, thinking what I was going to do, and then I had to line up all my contacts on this. I started Boy Scouts when I was about 4 years ago, which was about when I was 11.
And at that point, was earning an Eagle badge a goal of yours?
It's always been a goal of mine. My brother was an Eagle Scout, my dad was an Eagle Scout, a lot of people in my family were Eagle Scouts, and most people don't get that when they're in Scouts. They usually drop out for that, and it's been a goal. I didn't think I'd get it sometimes, but I'm working toward it.
What's the most enjoyable thing about Boy Scouting?
I like the campouts. Go on campouts with your friends and just having a fun time.
And Chris, let me bring you in here. Tell me how you help out Lucky in this goal that he's trying to reach.
Well, I guess I would be sort of the second man, helping him lead the other guys. What we're going to be doing is when we fingerprint him, I'll be helping him to helping out, correcting what is wrong, just basically helping out wherever I'm needed.
Do you feel like if he does achieve this status that it's partly yours too, that you take as much pride in it as he will?
You know, it's sort of a give and take, because he's also going to be helping the mine a few months also.
Okay. How far along are you on yours?
I'm Life Scout. I'm next rank lower than he is, and I'll be ready for it in a few months.
What do you think that each of you will learn from this as you go through life? Will it be something that you can look back on?
Eagle Scout, it can always benefit you in life. Join the Army, I believe you get like an increase in pay if you're an Eagle Scout. It's one of the few things one of the things you can put on a resume for jobs, and it really spreads you around. You learn about a lot of different stuff in Eagle Scout, Boy Scout.
What about you, Chris?
People recognize leadership qualities when you earn an Eagle Scout, because you do have quite a lot of leadership through the younger scouts as you get older in scouting. Because, as in Boy Scout and Cub Scouts, it would be the adults leading you, but as you get older in Boy Scouts, it's more kids leading kids.
You also think this will help when you become a father? And
it'll mean something to my kids, hopefully, that their father was an Eagle Scout, and hope they'll try for it, because it'll have anything that helped me, it should help my kids.
Okay, now let's go over what will happen at McDonald's again on February 1st.
Okay, February 1st, Saturday, I'm inviting all kindergarten through 4th graders to come on up to McDonald's between 10 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. We're going to take their picture with a Polaroid camera and take their fingerprints, and we'll give those to their parents. And we would $1 donation that goes strictly toward the film will be requested, and then they get the kids will receive a free small sundae donated by McDonald's, and Mr. Vaughn, the area supervisor, helped me arrange that, and that's about it.
Well, before I let you go, we've got Chris here. Is there anyone else that you want to give some credit to for helping you?
Yeah, I'd like to give some credit to the newspaper office who helped put this in the paper, and the police department. They're going to be setting up a separate booth up there, and hopefully they'll be donating the fingerprinting cards and the ink pads. And there's my Scoutmaster, Mr. Leos, and my Assistant Scoutmaster, Mr. Moniz, and Mr. Coffee, and all the kids in Troop 75.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. With the Sulphur Springs Wildcats, it's beginning to look more and more like last year all over again. When the Wildcats won the District 15 4A championship, it was a team of overachievers, not expected to do well in district. Well, the same is said for this year's group. But Friday night, they made a big statement when they went to Paris and beat the heavily favored Wildcats 67-61. And Sulphur Springs head coach Dick Schofield couldn't be more pleased with a win in hostile territory.
Before the game, we talked specifically. Said now we could. The basketball is a game of ups and downs and peaks and valleys, and if Paris has a 14-2 lead at the end of the first quarter, we have to maintain some really get after it and try to get some consistency, and we're going to get back in the ball game. If we have a 14-2 lead sometime early in the game, then we can't get too excited about that. We have to continue doing the things that we did. And I heard on the playback that just a minute ago that we did have a 14-2 lead, and so basically that's what we talked about in the first quarter. Guys, we had a great first quarter. We can't get the game is not over. It's 4 quarters. We have to try to not get too excited about what we're doing now, but just keep doing the basic things that got us in that position. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. Them getting back in the ball game, there were several reasons. We're not used to having a 17-point lead on a good basketball team, and we got a little bit cautious and complacent, and we really didn't get after it offensively like we could have. And defensively, of course, when you're behind by that many points, you just let it all hang out. You really get after it, and there was a lot of rough play, and it's easy to come back from a deficit like that and make it look good. It's hard to maintain the lead. So, I don't feel badly at all about making it a close game because of the style of play. But, basketball is it's a 32-minute game in high school, and you've got to maintain consistency throughout that 32 minutes. Yeah, you're going to have some spurts, some surges, and you're either positive or negative, and you just have to make sure that you're consistent throughout that 32 minutes as much as possible. And and I thought we did that, and Paris definitely did it. They had a lot of valleys, but then they really peaked out at the end. So it's 32 minutes, and we did our damage in the first half, and that was the key to the ball game.
you had 6 people scored in that second period. It was really spread in there that time. You still you extended your lead 17-13. Third period, they picked up 3 points on you. Henley and Johnson looked like was doing most of your scoring. But in that final period, it was all Washington. We got him down with 18 points.
Yeah, I think we had 16, but 16, 18 points, whatever.
What's the difference?
You know, Washington, he's a great athlete, and he got a lot of those on offensive rebounds and tip-ins. And, of course, he pulled up one time from NBA three-point range and made a three-pointer. And, of course, you have nothing to lose like that in that situation. You know, you just go out and get after it, and you've got no qualms about taking shots like that, and you're a little bit more comfortable and nothing to lose, and you just sometimes it's easy to play when you're way behind like that because there's no pressure on you. Anything you do is going to look good. So yeah, Washington's a great player, and I want to mention also he had 4 points through 3 quarters, and Damian Bell was assigned to cover him and did a great job on him. And you know, even though he got 16 points in the fourth quarter, you know, Damian, we needed a different style of play, and Damian didn't play too much on him in the fourth quarter. You know, and it's just, if Damian were in there, maybe he would have been shut down a little bit, but I thought Damian did a great job on him for 3 quarters. You know, also Junior Johnson did a great job on, what's the kid's name?
Oh, let's see. We've got
Number 3, Parker. Okay. Yeah, you know, I forgot his name. I was hollering Parker, Parker all night long. Watch Parker get in his face because he can really shoot. And Junior, even though the kid got 7 points in the first quarter, he just got 2 the rest of the game.
Wildcats moved to 2-1 in district play, and they'll take that record tomorrow night on the road again when they travel to Texarkana to take on Texas High. Cecil Savage, 18 Country News. Sulphur Springs High School students score above the state average on TOS scores, but such was not the case in the recently released test results, especially for Sulphur Springs High School juniors who scored just below the state average. Now Sulphur Springs High School principal Ron Andrews says a new plan is in the making to help TOS scores in the future.
Actually, we're targeting all math TOS involvement. We're going to do that by virtue of the fact that every day in each math class we're implementing some TOS remediation. 5, 10, 15-minute kind of effort on the part of each math teacher to bring our math students up to speed. So when they take this test again, it's not the issue that it has been. But specifically, we're targeting our exit level participants, the juniors. We scored decently within the state, but we're not satisfied with our scores by any means, and to demonstrate that sincerity, we have devised a plan where our exit level people who weren't successful on the math portion of the TOS will have an opportunity for remediation. We're going to start that Tuesday, the 4th. And every Tuesday and Thursday for the 8-week period that we've designed this program, 4 classes will be held between from 7:45 to 8:20 in the morning for those students who need to do some boning up, some extra work in order to be successful on the TOS exit test. We have a meeting scheduled with these students. We're sending a letter to each home so the parents will be appraised of the situation, and we're making phone calls to each home, all to emphasize how necessary it is for these students to do well on that test, not from a Sulphur Springs ISD standpoint necessarily, though that's important, but the students who do not pass the TOS do not graduate from any high school in Texas, and so this is our way of trying to ensure success.
Parents may at first panic a little bit by getting a letter from the school system concerning grades. What can you tell the parents who may react that way?
Well, first of all, don't panic. If anybody needs to panic, let us do the panicking. We'll take care of it, simply because that's what we're here to do, is meet the needs of our students. One of the needs in this particular instance is remediation in those areas, specifically mathematics, that the students weren't successful in. And that's what we intend to do. Now, we'll document all the efforts that we put forth to ensure this success. Students who are asked to attend these particular classes, attendance will be kept, and parents will be notified if the students aren't in attendance, because it's important. Their graduation depends upon it, but more importantly, I think, or as importantly, their sense of value, their sense of worth, and their sense of accomplishment is important. And we want them to be successful. You know, our vision statement for this campus targets winning in all areas as being our goal, and certainly the toss is one of those areas.
And with that in mind, don't you want to stress once again that the juniors didn't just bomb the test?
Oh, no.
They were just below the state average.
Yeah, and just barely below. But even the state average, if they'd been 10, 15 points as a class above the state average, that's not good. That's average.
Yeah,
and
in Texas it is.
It's in Texas, and we're not trying to achieve mediocrity. We're trying to excel, and this is one of those efforts.
Of course, Sulphur Springs High School has a great reputation in academics, and we'll have some of the students that are responsible for that great reputation. We'll have that story for you when we come back on the News Notebook.
And implement a tactics for thinking skill.
The Sulphur Springs High School UIL academic team has begun a march toward defending their district championship. The first UIL invitational meet of the season was this weekend at North Lamar Paris Junior College. Sulphur Springs with a fourth-place finish, but there's lots of time to defend that crown.
This weekend was really the first time that we geared up into our UIL competition, and we went into this meet knowing that we were not vying for the championship because we had so many conflicts, mainly the ACT test, that we had so many students taking that, but we wanted to get into invitational meets because we needed the practice. But yet we were pleasantly pleased with how our students rated this weekend, and I think we had 38 students entered in events, and out of those 38 students, only 12 of those had had any experience competing. And to me, that is part of competition, that kids have to learn how to compete. You know, they're always afraid, did I get to the right room, what I do when I get there, and whatever. And there's a knack to kids learning how to compete, and this is what we're looking for in these invitational meets.
Was this the tune-up for the spring when you really get rolling in UIL?
Right. This was our first trip for an invitational meet. We plan to go to either Robert E. Lee and Tyler, or well, we're going to Terrell the end of February. Then Sulphur Springs will host a meet the first weekend of March. Our meet is traditionally the first weekend of March, which is usually the last one in the area before district meet. And district this year is late. We're competing the second week of district, which is the first week of April.
You're going to try to keep this tradition going again? It's a lot of pressure on you now.
Right. There is a lot of pressure, but like even Saturday, we could tell the kids that when they got into the competition, they saw other schools, that, you know, we're ready to get with it. You know, we want to get with it. You know, Cecil, as much as you're involved, that tradition helps as much as anything, and that we're used to winning. Kids want to get involved, and we want to be part of the UIL team, and that helps us tremendously.
Is that partly responsible for the success, success breeding success, as they say?
I think it is, Cecil. I think that that's one of the successes that Sulphur Springs High School shares, and kids realize that from year to year, and they want to be a part of it.
Is there any particular event that you expect to be strong in, any more than the others?
You've heard me say before, and I really believe this, that our strength is balance, that we have kids that do well over the entire program, but we should compete well in spelling. We'll be strong in journalism department. So, you know, we have areas where we do can. We felt like seniors in our math team last year, and those underclassmen have just come up, and we're looking for good things from our math team.
I hate to rate teams almost like it's a football team, but rate this group as compared to some that you've had in the past.
That's hard to do. Because really you don't get a taste of how these kids are competing until we have that first competition like we had this weekend. And what we look for is for those kids to grow, that they get stronger each meet and whatever. I think they're probably as strong as any team we've had. I think you're always leery right there at first and you're kind of scared, you know, do we have kids? But I think we'll be right there in it.
Well, and the bottom line is you expect to be going to Austin again.
Right. The second weekend of May, our reservations will be made.
You already have them made, I would assume.
Right.
Okay.
But our district academically, Cecil, is you can visit with people across the state, and we have one of the strongest academic districts within the state.
Well, North Lamar always
right,
is strong.
North Lamar always, and North Lamar and Sulphur Springs like to feel like that they have had a leadership role in, like Paris and Mount Pleasant are coming right along. Texas High last year, I think they were kind of awed by the whole thing because they had been in a district that was really not very competitive in academics, and they couldn't believe the things that went on in this district last year. And I think they have caught on, and they're really in there this year.
Sulphur Springs did have 6 first-place finishes in that meet, which was won by the host team, North Lamar. Cecil Savage, 18 News. In Hopkins County, there are a good many cattle, and one group that has taken particular notice of that, cattle thieves. Cattle rustling is becoming big business in Hopkins County, according to Detective O.C. Roop with the Hopkins County Sheriff's Department.
Well, we've been mostly missing a lot of small calves, 2-3 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks old. And from the rest we've made last week on the 21st and the 22nd, they're putting these calves in the trunk of vehicles.
Is that unusual?
Well, to me it would be unusual. Like one man I contacted, he stated, well, the guy said he didn't have a pickup when he bought a calf, but it's very unusual for someone to put baby calves in the back of the vehicles.
This is, of course, a county that has a lot of cattle, so cattle rustling would be a pretty big business.
Yes, sir.
Kind of give me an idea of over a year how much of this might go on.
Oh, Lord. We have quite a bit of it going on. I couldn't sit here and just say the number of cases, but we have a large amount of cattle rustling going on in this county.
Are there ways that the farmers and ranchers and dairymen can prevent that?
Yes. Most of them that's stolen, they're near a county road or a farm-to-market road, the little calf pens. And that way, late at nights, anybody that wants to steal a calf, they can just go up there and pick them up and haul them off. They can move their pens back where they're not visible. When they're up old enough to be branded, to brand, because the Texas Cattle Race Association, they have the computers which goes out to all the sale barns and everything. If that brand ever shows up, well, then they can trace down who sold the calf or cow.
Pretty stiff penalty if you get caught doing that, isn't it?
It's third-degree felony. It carries up to 10 years in TDC.
And it's obviously something that the deputies look for quite a bit.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do.
Cecil Savage, 18 Country News.